Hello, everybody. Welcome back to more Misericorde. It's been a bit since we last played, so let's go remind ourselves what happened last time. So, last time okay, these were the sections that we pretty much covered. So, let's see. So we found out from Catherine. Well, first of all, we found out that everything that happened related to Hedwig seeing a ghost or whatever was all a prank by Eustace. What else was there? Eustace slaps the shit out of Hedwig slaps the shit out of Eustace. So there's a little bit of bad feelings going on. What is it? Before all that happened, Hedwig managed to broach the topic of James Foreman with Catherine, and she says they'll talk later. And that night, Hedwig just she can't sleep, so she decides to go walk around a little bit. And then she sees a light in the distance, and she follows it, and it turns out that it was Catherine going to visit James Foreman at the hospitalum. Hedwig panics. She runs away. She makes it back to the Abbey, but then she throws up and passes out, where Catherine finds her anyway. And Hedwig asks her why she was talking to James, basically. Well, not why she was talking to... If Catherine could prove that James wasn't the one who did the murder. And Catherine says, yes, she knows. And she's embarrassed to say it. She wobbles about whether or not she's gonna say it or not. And then she says that it was because that they were having sex in her room. And so... Hedwig does end up going to the Superior to tell her that she got information that Catherine says that James Foreman is not the murderer, but she doesn't want to talk about Catherine's secret, and she just says that it's because she saw Catherine going to see James Foreman that night. This makes the Superior even more suspicious. She doesn't want to trust Catherine's words because this suggests that they were in cahoots with each other. Hedwig does not believe this, because she feels like Catherine was telling the truth about everything. So anyway, the next day, or I guess this is the next day, let's see. Let's see here. So we find out that, there was a time where Flora was found sort of trapped in a box, and Catherine, with a C, the one that was murdered, took the blame for it, saying that it was a prank. But there's reason to believe that that might not have been the case, because we know that Flora was trying to escape the Abbey before, so it's possible that Catherine decided to take the fall so that Flora didn't get into trouble. Marta thinks that Catherine was getting a little too used to flaunting the rules, I guess. There's a little period of time where Hedwig goes with Darcy to go look at sheep, the topic of James Foreman comes up, and it turns out Darcy is the one who found his cloak because she was putting out a fire that was happening in the dormitory because someone put too much fuel in the fireplace. Let's see. They also talk about how Catherine apparently had, like, she would obsess over something and then basically switch obsessions extremely quickly. And Darcy kind of felt like she was, like, it made Catherine seem, so this Catherine with a C, it made Catherine seem like she wasn't quite a great friend, because she would just basically lose interest in you if you weren't sharing the same interests as her. We found out that Catherine wanted to make everyone, for a little while, learn how to be swordsmen. That's what the deal with the swords were. The sword was basically Catherine's, because she liked to take it out a lot. What else did we get? Oh yeah, Flora manages to get Hedwig to teach her how to paint, and there's a little sequence where they draw cats, and it turns out that the cat that has been found, that has been hanging out inside the abbey, was Catherine's, and Flora's been taking care of it now. But she's trying to hide the fact that she likes cats, because everyone else at the abbey seems to hate cats. Hedwig decides to, keep her secret. Got a lot of secrets in this place. Let's see. And then she remembers that, then Hedwig, as she goes to bed, she remembers that the Book of Matthew, is there. Nothing seems different about it. It seems exactly the same as when she threw it out the window, so it's not clear, why any of this happened, but she suspects it's Eustace. So the next day, the superior goes to take her, or had arranged the trip for Hedwig to go to the town of Limbarrow with Moira and with Eustace. They're going to deliver some fritters for the townsfolk. There's a little bit of confrontation between Hedwig and Eustace, and they kind of apologize to each other, sort of. There's a little bit of a fight, but then there's a little bit of a getting over it, making up. Some fritters were involved. We learned from Moira that Catherine was Irish. I don't know why. That she decided to throw that in. But Catherine with a K was from the village, and this is the big reason why Hedwig is going there. We're trying to get information about Catherine with a K and also about James Foreman to see if there's anything that they can get. The thing is, everyone in the village has a pretty bad opinion of Catherine with a K. So, and kind of a bad opinion of the people in the town, of the nuns. When they first show up, they're kind of like at the outskirts of town. They run into a farmer and his wife, who is, like, I think they're the uncle and aunt of James Foreman. There's, like, the farmer is James Foreman's uncle. They seem to have a better relationship with the nuns than everyone else in the town are rumored to have. We find out that James is kind of a sloppy worker and didn't really do his job a lot of the time, and also if he was doing his job, he was doing it badly. Villagers don't want none of that. True! Let's see. Oh man, I should have made the title, "They don't want none unless they've got buns," like at Fritters. Alright, anyway. Hedwig, okay, yeah, so we cut off, no, this is the village trip. I'm gonna change the YouTube title to it later. This is the village trip. So anyway. So yeah, we ended right as we were about to get into the village proper. So let's start a new section. Outside, okay, the farmer and the dell. What is a dell? I don't know what a dell is. Alright, let's actually, this is on the way. It's called On the Way. Alright, so let's load up. Did I quick save? It was a quick save, right? Yes. My village don't want nuns unless you got fritters, hun. Let's see. Alright. Entering the village proper was immediately dizzying. Immediate music change. I'd only just started growing accustomed to the size and scope of the abbey. But now I was surrounded by buildings and streets that were unto themselves their own little abbeys. Despite being spread out between buildings, courtyards, gates, and windows, I'd been able to think about Lynnborough Abbey as one place. Lynnborough. I keep saying Lynnborough. Leaving my cell had been painful, but I was at least in a world I could understand. I could not bring myself to think about the village in the same way, even though it was the village of Lynnborough. I tried to stretch my understanding to include all these places in my head as Lynnborough, but it was impossible. Lynnborough in the cellars? That's what they're hiding all the wine in the cellars, actually. I had no idea how Eustace and Moira could walk so calmly between shops and houses and inns and not feel terrified. Does that sound mad? It sounds mad to say it aloud. But it really was impossible to comprehend. One could not walk, I presumed, from one house into another the way I was allowed in the abbey. The only place I was restricted from going was the back of Eustace's library, which was really only a request. I watched people knocking on doors and waiting for someone to invite them in. I saw men standing impatiently outside of shops, waiting for proprietors to return. Everyone, it seemed, was beholden to the terms of some uneasy peace treaty. Everyone was the king of their own little castle. Living like this would make me even more miserable than the abbey did. As we passed people in the streets, we would offer them fritters from our bags. Most conversation was short, if there was conversation at all. Moira was perfectly chipper, and Eustace maintained her usual calm demeanor through even the most brusque encounters. Brusque? I don't know. The rudest people acted as if we weren't even there. One even bumped Eustace on the shoulder, and I'm sure it was on purpose. Eustace didn't react at all, save for a quietly muttered curse word I dare not repeat. For my own part, I was doing my best to keep up the act. I dragged my feet in lockstep with my cohorts. It's funny that she's decided not to repeat the curse word even a year in the future. I dragged my feet in lockstep with my cohorts. I went through the motions of lifting up the bag. I didn't speak unless I absolutely needed to. I forced a smile to each passerby, instead hoping it would be enough. My cheeks were already numb by the end of the first street. Goodness, we still have so many left. Darcy made too many as usual. That's just like her. She's very kind. Is there something wrong with her making lots? Huh? No, of course not. No! It's sweet how excited she gets about helping out. Not every observation about someone is a criticism. Oh, be nice. Weren't you just getting snitty about Hedwig calling you? I can't even remember now. Inscrutable. That wasn't really a criticism either. Huh. It seemed Moira was the only one of us having any fun. We trudged through more streets, passing up fritters and knocking on doors. Alright, so they walk through the streets, passing out fritters, and knocking on doors. It seems Darcy made a little too much. What else? Some people are rude. Hedwig takes the grin and bear approach whenever there are rude, with just about everything, including rude people. She doesn't talk much. Not seeing no solicitor signs like you'd expect. I mean, they probably didn't have solicitors back in the 1400s. Not a single person had anything to say to us beyond a courtesy greeting and thanks, and many people didn't even have those to spare. I don't think anyone's home. Just try one more time. I'd feel terrible if we missed someone. Not a peep. All of a sudden, I was soaked. I come across a door where nobody is answering. They knock a bunch. And then somebody dumps something over them. Happened so fast I didn't even realize what had happened at first. Felt as if someone had boxed me around the ears. Oh, Hedwig! What? Oh. An unconcerned looking woman was looking down at us from the window above, holding a still dripping laundry bucket. A laundry bucket over Hedwig, soaking her. My apologies, miss. Didn't see you three down there. Of course not. It's very easy to miss nuns at the door. There's no need for sarcasm, miss. Neither Eustace nor Moira had gotten very wet at all. I, however, was covered head to toe. There was an unpleasant fausty smell coming from the water, and I realized that my bag of fritters was sopping wet as well. Would you like a fritter, madam? No, thank you, miss. Of course, madam. We'll just be off then. I don't remember her voice anymore. Have a good day, miss. The woman retreated from the window without so much as an apologetic glance at my direction. Well, at least there was water. Here, Hedwig. Let me carry that. No. If you're sure. Throw some wet fritters through the window, right? Eventually, we came to a square with several diverging streets. Eustace leaned against a wall, looking fed up. Moira looked at it as if she had finally noticed that Eustace and I were not as sociable as she was. Her pleasant smile morphed into an expression altogether more concerned. How are you two doing? I just want to get this over with. Yes, I've had quite enough of all of this, to be honest. Nobody even seems to care that we're here. Maybe it'd be best to just cut our losses and go home. We can't do that. No, that wouldn't be right. But why not? Both of you had horrible things to say about the people here on the way down. It's so loud. And with all honesty, I must agree with them now. And now you're dedicated to finishing a completely thankless task for them? Why? She has a point. I mean, I don't love the idea of telling the Superior we gave up, but we really can't go back until we're finished. Why not? Eustace. Moira mentioned for Eustace to come closer and whispered something into her ear through her hood. Alright, let's see her. The woman doing so does not appear at all bothered by this. They take a break. And Hedwig wonders why they haven't just given up and gone back because of the cold shoulder treatment. Morris says they can't, and then whispers something to Eustace. Right. I'm sorry, Hedwig, but we really need to do this job properly. I know it's difficult. What's going on? Nothing. It's really nothing. What kind of fool do you take me for? What did you tell her? Hedwig, why does nobody treat me with any sort of respect? Am I so difficult to explain things to? Would my fragile little mind simply burst if you explained what you told her to me as well? No. No, Hedwig, please. You're making a scene again. Hedwig does not take the subterfuge. Well, I don't think subterfuge is the right word I want. Clandestineness. What's another good word for sneakiness? Yeah, whatever. Poets picture Hedwig as a scene gal. What, do we even know what her hair color is? Did it come up? I don't remember. She's dyeing her hair black. She got it souped over one eye. Moira took a step forward, positioning herself between Eustace and myself. Hedwig, I don't think you're foolish or difficult or anything like that. So what did you tell her? That she has a mohawk? I can't say. I can't say. The fury I'd been nursing before the cart ride was back in full force, and this time I could not control it. I raised my hand and Moira flinched, but she stood her ground. She threatens to slap Moira. I did not hit her, of course, although I would not like to dwell on how close I came. Instead, I jabbed a finger in her face gesticulately. To gesticulate angrily. So you're lying then? No, Hedwig, I don't... How like Elisha I felt. Not bold. Well, she's a little bald right now. But nonetheless belittled and insulted for things outside of my control. I cursed Moira, I cursed Eustace, I cursed the whole town for all to hear. We need to get her back to the Abbey. This isn't healthy for her. But... I hope Angela's right about bears. Excuse me. That's so stupid. Oh yeah, you might have missed it because it happened while they were telling ghost stories, which weren't around for splats. But Angela's afraid of bears, even though there are no bears in the area or in England. He's afraid that a bear will come in the middle of the night and eat her or something. Huh? I hope Angela's right about the bloody bears. I don't follow. Eustace was nonplussed, but Moira had pieced my admittedly cumbersome insult together. Look at her crying. Tears were rolling down her cheeks. I don't really mean that. I don't really mean that, Hedwig. Crying face. Her sniffling caught me off guard. Why is she crying? Before I had a chance to feel sorry, she stormed off, away from the town square. Her bag of fritters was still in her hand, and I remember that it bounced so inelegantly it would have been funny in any other situation. Eustace cast a mild yet dark expression at me. If you wanted to go back to the Abbey sooner, you should have kept that little tantrum to yourself. What did she tell you? Never you mind. She hoisted her bag over her shoulder and made to follow Moira. She gesticulates accusingly at Moira. And then brings up Angela and bears, which Moira cries. Doesn't take well. Receives incredibly poorly. She runs away. Crying. What is this crack? What is happening? Stay put. I'll clean up this mess. Wait, you're leaving me alone? Yes. No, that's silly. Let me come with you. I'm sorry about all that. This is just so different and... Stay put. Why? Because I don't really want to be around you right now. We're still friends, right? We said so. You said so. You said so in the cart. Without another word, she turned around and set off after Moira. I was left all alone in the town square, my frock still dripping mildewy water onto the cobblestones. I let the wet sack of food fall to the ground and sat down on a low wall. I gripped the bricks, digging my fingernails into the hard stone and biting my own lip, trying not to cry. Was my behavior so out of line? I deeply regretted upsetting Moira, but I had withstood just about enough for one adventure. I was in a strange place where strange things were happening to me. And now I was all alone. Every now and then one of the townsfolk would walk through the square, but they paid me no mind. Yeah, just lay down. Eustace goes off after her, telling Hedwig to stay put. A dog wandered over to me and I froze. I'd never seen one before, but I recognized it instantly. But I was scared stiff. Even if it was a farm animal, I couldn't help but notice its sharp teeth and animal eyes. Not food. The hound ignored my pleas and instead began snuffling around my legs. I held my breath as it rudely prodded my stomach with its snout all of a sudden. Please, please, please go away. I yelped as the creature drew itself up on its hind legs and rested its front paws on my knees. Not daring to move in case it felt like tearing me to pieces, I whimpered as it continued sniffing. After a genuinely harrowing handful of moments, it finally decided it didn't seem all that tasty and returned to the ground, but not before licking my face for good measure. I was relieved that I was spared from becoming its dinner, but... Oh now, why are you laughing? I was frightened! I could have been eaten! Oh, really now? Anyway, the beast turned his attention to the sack of fritters on the ground. I suppose it had smelled those first and had been looking for them the whole time it had been assaulting me, but nonetheless, it had given me an awful fright. Even still, I felt the creature deserved better than dirty fritters. Leave those alone. They're all foul and soggy. The dog paid me no mind and wrestled with the sack until the contents spilled out onto the stone. Immediately, the dog began scarfing down huge bites of the sodden pastries, which were quickly becoming one big messy blub. Don't! I suppose I'd no reason to stop it. At the very least, it wasn't eating my face. Does that not bother you? Dog. Alright. A dog comes by to, I don't know, hang out with Hedwig. It licks her face and starts eating the wet fritters. The fritters wet from the laundry water. What else? Hedwig is afraid of being eaten by the dog. Is there nothing better for you to eat? I reasoned that the dog probably had no reason to care that the food was soaked through with dirty water. I sat and watched it eat. It was deeply unpleasant, but I couldn't look away. Is it safe for the dog to eat this? Moist crumbs fell out of its mouth as it chomped loudly. The same food was being lapped up over and over. Eventually, however, the laundry water seemed to win. The dog made a shuddery, spasming motion that made me flinch reflexively. I wasn't sure if it was about to wheel around to attack me. Instead, it made a ghastly hacking sound. Half-chewed slop poured out of its mouth. The fetid mountain of ruined pastry grew even larger, yet it kept eating. It paid no mind to what assuredly must have tasted even worse after coming out before it went in. Had this creature been a man, I would have begged him to stop. But all I could do is watch it continue to regurgitate and reconsume the horrid slop the sweet pastries have become. Why is this? She watches it eat the fritters, spit them out, and then eat them again, over and over. And then I heard a sound of trumpets. A mule and a wooden cart had arrived in the town square. No driver in its front seat. A wooden pole sat in place of a rider reaching up into the sky. I moved my gaze up the pole to see that a large flag, or perhaps a kite, was drifting idly in the midday breeze. I held my breath as the cart passed me by. Another cart passed me by, and then another. There's the buzz of trumpets. Blare of trumpets. And a parade of carts with tall flags start passing by. Each flying a new color, a different flag, a new kite. They drove in circles around the square. I think there were a dozen in all. Is she having a fucking hallucination? What is going on here? The dog chased the tails of the mules as they walked past, dodging out of the way of the wheels at the last possible moment each time one came too close. In between each cart's passing, the little creature would return to its prized mound of filth for another bite, before being distracted again by the next donkey's tail. The trumpets blew again, this time much louder, deeper. more mournful. A new kite joined the procession, this time not a simple flapping cloth, but an intricately adorned effigy. A man, his face was chiseled handsomely, his expression stoic. 2 poles held this effigy aloft, one in each of the man's wooden hands. As this kite passed me, the effigy's head turned to face me. His eyes met with mine and I realized it was no effigy at all, but a real figure. His gaze felt terrifying and peaceful all at once, and he beckoned me to follow him. The dog had disappeared, only its horrid meal remained. On one of the carts is a man. That Hedwig first mistakes for a wooden effigy. He beckons her to follow him. I took care to avoid stepping in it as I left my perch on the low wall and followed the cart as it peeled away from the procession on the square. I assumed it continued behind me, I do not know. I was transfixed by the cart ahead of me. I followed the cart and its floating rider through the empty streets. I felt disconnected from my body, as my footsteps were happening after I had already performed the next. I was drifting over the cobblestones. I felt as light as the man above the cart did. The sight of the effigy had already made me weep, but I could feel a confused urge to burst into sobs swelling up inside. But I also felt light, calm, and even joyous. I felt everything there was possible to feel at once. As the cart reached the dead end, however, I felt a moment of doubt. I did not want the sensation to end. She follows him away from the procession. Feeling oddly light and emotional. I doubled back hoping the cart would turn and lead me again. It did no such thing. I felt a brief moment of panic as I turned around to perhaps coax the man to follow me and saw that it had disappeared. I gasped and lunged around again, hoping I'd just missed it passing me. No such luck. I spun around and around again until I realized I was no longer touching the ground. I floated above the village. Yeah, she's definitely high or something. What the fuck is going on? The cart disappears at a dead end, and in a panic, Hedwig starts to spin faster and faster until she rises up above the ground of the village. Have too many fritter vapors. I see all the streets, all the houses, all the nasty little fiefdoms, and the people who ruled over them. I was being pulled up and up by some force that I knew I had to give myself over to. This was right. This was where I needed to be. This strange sensation that I was being tugged up by the scruff of my neck eventually gave way to a feeling of blissful control. I was flying now, just as the man above the cart had been. I was flying higher, in fact, and all the people below me could see what the cruelty and indifference had wrought. My ascendance, their abandonment. But then I felt that hand around my neck again, firmer this time. More assertive. I was dragged by the throat the rest of the way up to my destination. A plateau above the village overlooking the lake. I struggled to breathe. My breath was ragged. I begged with whatever it was that held me to let me go. Eventually I was flung to the grass. I fell on my back into the cold dew, my head crashing against the dirt. I felt a ripple of pain emanate from the back of my skull all the way out through my whole body. I could not move anymore. I stared into the clouds. They were deep grey, heavy with rain. It covered the sky almost completely, save for a bright spot growing brighter above me. Okay. She's thrown bodily into the grass of a hillside. She stares up into the sky, into the rainy sky, and finds a glowing light with the man she saw inside. He was gigantic, magnificent, terrifying. His piercing stare kept me pinned to the ground. Why is he holding a compass? The trumpet sounded one final time. All-seeing, all-knowing, all-seeing, all-knowing. The man finally blinked, and with slow, regal grace, he withdrew between the black rain clouds that flanked him. It began to pour. I was all alone. Interesting. Nice vision you had. Is this what the procession looked like? A bunch of naked ladies and drawn by goose-drawn carriage. Alright. Then he disappears and it begins to rain. Sister? I thought I saw you wandering up the hill. Are you alright? Yeah, very good trip. Totally uneventful. You'll catch cold if you stay out here too long. Come on, up you get. No. What's gotten into you? It's a good thing I stepped out when I did. I'd hate to think what would have happened if you'd gotten stuck up there all by your lonesome. You feel quite clammy. Where'd your friends get to? Afraid. Naked and afraid. Let's see. Hedwig ends up on the hill. Is found by the farmer from earlier on the hill. She had wandered up there without her friends, he said. Did you get lost? You're the new one, eh? Easy to do around here. I still have to second guess myself sometimes if I wander further than the inn. We can send you up to the abbey once you're warmed up. Are you hungry? I'll tell the wife we have a guest. Lucky enough, we've always kept enough for around 3. Kept enough around for 3. There we go. He takes her home to get her fed up and rested before he has to go back to the inn. There you are. Well, eat at your own pace. You should eat, though. Climbing the hill all by yourself, that's hard work. In those shoes, no less. Did something happen? She looks quite dazed. Sister, did someone get rough with you? Or did you have a fall, perhaps? I imagine it'd be easy. That path hasn't been taken care of in a donkey's years. Is there something we should tell your abbess? Yep, dear. This is not on. If one of those tawny bastards mistreated her, they won't hear the end of it. She's shaking her head. Thank God for that. Do try to eat something. Whatever happened has clearly rattled you. Let's see. Catherine? The dead woman? No. No, she means... Our Catherine. Birthmark on her face. If you say so. I'm not much remembering that sort of thing. The tall woman from the estate. You remember? So she really did take the vows. Will all be? Yes. She lives in the abbey now. I could not bring myself to look at them. Do you think she could kill someone? What sort of question is that? Yes. Harold! That's common knowledge! Oh man, this guy. Alright. They ask, he and his wife ask her if she's alright, but she doesn't really feel like responding. Hedwig brings up Catherine. The wife calls her the tall woman from the estate. The farmer seems to believe the rumors that Catherine killed her husband. Even still, Herb said in her She's clearly a little touched right now. What is common knowledge?
Wrong.
Harold, do not upset her any further.
She killed her husband, didn't she?
Oh, look what you gone and done. Who was her husband?
The lord of the estate by the lake. It was a terrible scandal.
And there was proof?
Well, not that I know of. But it's proof enough, I suppose, that she opted to take the veil.
We should stop talking about this.
It's not proper.
Why would she kill him?
Had something to do with infidelity, if I remember right.
It's not spoken of anymore. The whole village put it behind them when she left. That killer, her husband. Due to some infidelity-related reasons, he says. Let's see. So there was the lord of the manor at the lake. Is that what? Lord of the estate by the lake. Her husband was the lord of the estate by the lake. And who's the lord of the estate now?
Truth be told, it can't be ours to keep up with the with titles and whatnot. The new lord only visits occasionally, I think.
A house with a murder like that hanging over it. Can't imagine it's very comfortable staying there long. How did Catherine's husband die?
She cut his head clean off with his own sword.
So it's definitely someone trying to frame Catherine with a K. At the very least. There's a new lord out there now. Supposedly, Catherine cut off her husband's head with his own sword. And his tail with a carving knife.
Or so they said. I wasn't there, so I couldn't tell you for sure. But one way or another, he ended up without his noggin. Nasty business. Nasty place in general, this hill. Something here must drive folks mad, I reckon.
So this is like gonna be like a bunch of like poppy seeds or something like that. Do poppy seeds get you high? Is that what I'm thinking of?
There's Catherine. I don't know. James. Rich or poor or something will grab you.
There was a mention of mushrooms. I wonder if the fritters had anything in it. That is basically the only thing we ate.
And move. Well, that's a task easier said than done.
They spoke so freely of the horrid crime. It was common knowledge, even. The answer, it seemed, had been available to me all this time. Several simple questions were all I had needed to ask. At the wife's urging, I tried to eat a little more of the pottage they had so kindly provided. It didn't take, however. I was elsewhere still. Felt shame. Shame for how long it had taken me to make any forward momentum on my task for Catherine's sake. Shame for how simple the connections I'd needed to make seemed now. I felt the shame that it had taken a vision to put me on this path. What I had just experienced was a divine course correction. The kind of thing reserved, I imagined, for good sailors lost at sea or troops wandering in the desert. That I had been deemed worthy of this kind of direct messaging from God spoke very highly of Catherine. Surely, I felt, there were more important people to be helping than I. Perhaps I'd been aided in their stead. Perhaps there was a prayer out there left unanswered because I was too foolish to do a very simple job. Do you think God can only do one thing at once? Hedwig? Do you think he gives out like a limited number of... Is this like a limited number? Like there was like a quota, and he only had a limited number of tickets that he could fill out. And is that how you think it works? Perhaps, as impossible as it may seem to suggest, I was stupid enough to put a strain on God's omnipresence. Girl? Matthew 6:28. Considerate lilia agri modo crescunt non laborant neque nint. Perhaps I'm lower than the lily, which thrives while wanting for nothing. So dramatic, I know. But am I wrong to think it? God provides for all, and God is not limited in any one action at one given time. Still, I feel sometimes that I could just be that wretched. Of course, I might remind myself in a better mood. That's conceited talk. Or perhaps I'm allegorizing the flowers and the birds too heavily, as Augustine warns us about. Who am I to complain after all? I've suffered far less than Job, yet here I am lamenting more than he ever did. Whether I am damned or just conceited, there's no path that leads me away from from shame.
Ah, that must be your friends.
Let's see. Hedwig wonders if the vision was divine intervention bringing her to this information. Man stood up to get the door. I did not turn around. I was deep in thought, staring to the fireplace. The flames were more comforting, more understandable than any pair of eyes had ever looked into. Pardon me if you've seen our puppy. The last time we saw him, he was eating wet fritters. I could hear pleasantries being exchanged, footsteps on the wooden floor. I could feel two cold, wet presences approaching behind me. Soon I would have to leave the comfort of the fireside to join them. Hedwig. Sister Moira. Sister Eustace. Can you forgive me? It was pointless to wait for a break in the rain, or so my companions said. The ride back up the hill to the Abbey was much soggier than the trip down. Some other travellers in carts flanked by armoured horsemen passed us by at the village outskirts. They looked just as miserable as I felt. I could hear raindrops plinking against the helmets as they hurried into town. We sat in silence for the first third or so. Alright. That's an interesting thing. The other two sisters, nuns, eventually show up to pick Hedwig up so that they can go back to the Abbey. Hedwig asks if the two will forgive her, but the answer is left. We don't get to hear the answer. On the way back up, they pass a group of men in armor escorting something. Escorting a cart. I look out the back of the cart toward the farmhouse chimney, yearning for the security of that fireplace until the building was out of sight entirely. I told the Superior it was a bad idea, you know. Are those images usually there in the, in this text box? You were wrong. Huh? Yes. Hey, I learned something very important today. Really now? Yes. It would be difficult to explain. We have time. No, Eustace. I've already forgiven the poor woman. There's no need to torment her. I'm not tormenting her. I'm curious. But after we split up, I watched a parade go by. There was a parade. No, there wasn't. I'd finally given up on trying to stare at the increasingly distant fireplace and turned to face Eustace. She looked tired. So what do you mean, a parade? I mean exactly that. I'm sure you can understand. I had a vision. Really now? Yes, I swear it. I saw a parade, a procession of carts with no riders, all carrying grand kites and banners. And one of them I thought at first carried an effigy. But it was... well, it got more mysterious after that, I suppose. What happened? Yes, tell us. This is very interesting. Well, I followed that particular cart for a while. I suppose that was how I ended up wandering away from the town square. Understandable. I did tell you to stay put, but I might make an exception for a vision. Eventually I lost him. Then I was carried through the air. I know this sounds quite strange, and then... whatever courage the fire had given me had finally waned. I could not bring myself to explain the entirety of my experience to Eustace. His expression remained, dare I say it, inscrutable. And then I do suppose
Not sure, quite sure how to describe it. You flew! She walked. That farmer saw her climbing the hill. Do you not believe me? I believe you felt like you were flying. I felt it. I saw it. Saw it. There we go. She saw it. Soaring in the sky. I was in the air, however briefly. The man said he found you laying down on the grass at the top of the hill, getting soaked by the rain. I know it sounds hard to believe, but it's what happened. Eustace sighed deeply and pulled the hood tighter over her head. People don't fly. Perhaps flying is the wrong word. I was being carried? It's not like I had control over my faculties in the air. Like you were plucked from the earth by God's own hand. Well, yes. Moira, the man saw her climbing the hill. So he says. Maybe he saw her after she'd come back down to the ground. Or maybe both things are completely true. How would that work? Well, Hedwig could have been carried, and maybe the farmer was shown an image of her climbing. I mean, she would have been far away from the house, just sort of a shape, so we'd go up and find her. So God carried Hedwig up the hill and showed an image of her to a man who was already nearby. Two divine revelations within, I don't know, 10 or 15 meters of each other. Was the meter already invented? I don't think the meter was invented back then. Wasn't the meter invented, like, after the French Revolution? Isn't that what happened? What are you talking about? Well, I need to look this up. When was the meter invented? Yeah, the meter was invented after the French, or during the French Revolution. Darcy had visions all the time. Has visions all the time. Alright, let's see. Hedwig decides to tell the two about her vision. Eustace is skeptical, but Moira, the farmer clearly saw Hedwig going up the hill. Moira, says perhaps God, showed the farmer an image of Hedwig going up the hill, so he would investigate. Why is Hedwig having one so hard to believe? So now we have 3 people in close proximity, all having grand visions. It does beg a belief, just a tad. I think it's beautiful. Maybe this mountain is just special. Eustace said the squelching of the mud beneath the cartwheels answer for her. I just think it's possible, that's all. At any rate, it's a moot point to argue. I don't think Hedwig is lying. I just don't know if I can accept that it really happened. What about Darcy's visions? You've got quite an interest in those, haven't you? Darcy's are different. In what sense? Well, she never claimed to be flying in any of hers. What does happen in hers, typically? Why don't you ask her and spare me the Inquisition? That was uncalled for. It's been a long afternoon. You can say that again. Can we all please make up before we get back to the Abbey? I'd like that. Sorry for being hysterical. Is that what she said? You're not hysterical. That was a cruel idea to force you into coming, I think. I'm sorry we insisted we stay longer. I wanted to tell Moira she didn't know the half of it. She didn't deserve to worry about having forced me to do anything when the Superior demanded it in the first place. No, my behavior was inexcusable. As it is all too often. I caught a glimpse of Eustace rolling her eyes out of the corner of my eye, but perhaps she was just adjusting her spectacles. I can appreciate that this trip was an extenuating circumstance. Yes, I think next time we'll stay at the Abbey, if it's all the same to you. We should at least take you on a picnic or some such. Small steps, you know. You can't stay cooped up in the Abbey forever. I thought that was rather the point. You know, I have a dark sense of humor sometimes, Hedwig. There was no handshake this time. Wait, there was no handshake this time. But I did not feel like should push things any further. The rest of the ride up the Abbey was silent, but at the very least it was a slightly less uncomfortable silence than the one that preceded this conversation. I didn't like the uncertainty. In the end, they make up at least a little bit. But it would have to do. The rain was showing no signs of letting up when we finally arrived. I was particularly bedraggled. The indignity of the laundry water incident was something that would stick with me permanently. And as soon as I hopped out of the cart, I made a beeline for the dorms to change. Huh? Hedwig? Where are you off to now? The dormitory? I must get out of these wet robes or I'll never be dry again in my life. Why don't you draw you a bath? I have to admit, this sounded like a wonderful idea. I kind of like the framing of this. I don't know why she's staying so far off to the side, though. But Moira just always has such like a placid look on her face. There's something. Either she's got nothing going on in her mind right now, or she's hiding something. She's got like that Mona Lisa smile, you know. I had to admit, this sounded like a wonderful idea. You know, I think I would like a bath very much. You all would after an outing like that, I think. What day is it again? November the 21st, I think. Perfect. I froze. I had not realized that Moira had meant we should all bathe together at once, and I did not like that idea at all. Perhaps I'll have fun tomorrow. Nonsense. You'll catch cold if you don't. Do you even have time to heat up water for it? With any luck, someone else has already had the bright idea to take a bath today. I couldn't help myself. I groaned aloud, pulled my hood over my eyes. What's the matter? I suspect. Well, you don't have to join us, Hedwig, but I think it'd be a good idea. She sneezed. Well, that decides it. Curse my wretched body! Wants to go bathe. Wants to go get changed quickly after the rain and the laundry water. Moira suggests that she'll draw up a bath for the three of them. Hedwig wants to refuse taking a bath together, but she sneezes. And Moira takes that as confirmation. I would have escaped this humiliation if it weren't for that little sneeze. I'm sure of it. Go on then. You two run up and get your change of frocks. Oh, wait. You two run up and get your change of frocks. Eustace, would you mind getting mine? On it. We made our way upstairs to the dorms quickly, dripping water all along the way. At the top of the stairs, I nearly ran straight into Darcy. I'll got your back. I was looking for you, Eustace. Hello, Darcy. You have a minute? I need your help with something. Of course. Hedwig, would you mind getting Moira's clothes? Hers is the door between Catherine's and Darcy's. Yes, I can do that. Eustace nodded, and Darcy hobbled away, back down the staircase. Hobbled? That's an interesting word. Does she normally hobble? Eustace and Hedwig go up to get some changes of clothes and bump into Darcy, who asks to grab Eustace for a moment. Oh, I guess that's a detail.
Hedwig. Eustace tells Hedwig to grab, what is it? Moira's clothes. Her room is between Catherine's and Darcy's. Eustace stopped for a moment at the landing, however, and turned to me. That reminds me. You should talk to Darcy later, you know. Huh? About your vision. Oh. Yes, I'll try to remember to do so. Eustace nodded, then disappeared down the stairs after Darcy. To do something downstairs. I quickly scooped up my dry frock from my dormitory. No suspiciously placed books on my dorm bed, I noted. I felt wrong to intrude in Moira's room, but at this point I desired nothing more than to get this whole exercise over with as quickly as possible. I opened a door and slipped inside on the lookout for her spare clothes immediately. The last thing I wanted was to gawk at someone else's room uninvited. I could not help but notice how neat and tidy it was, however. There was a beautifully carved crucifix hanging on the wall above her pillow, and her reading desk was meticulously stocked with papers. A handsome quill sat next to an inkpot as well. To cap it all off, there was a beautiful box resting on the desk next to the organized papers. The wood was clearly expertly carpentered, and it was gilded in a regal yet understated fashion. Why does she have so many nice things? What is going on with Moira that she has so many nice things? The whole room had a sense of carefully... She also has, like, a pair of boots that aren't the normal ones. Had a sense of carefully considered elegance to it. It was perfectly fitting for Moira. Simple but radiant, not vain but reverent. Please do not tell Moira I just described her as simple. I did not mean it as an insult. Approachable and complicated? Steadfast in her positivity. The bad situation is a perfect example of what I meant. The way she talks about Moira right now to the person she's telling the story to, it makes it sound like Moira didn't do it, because Moira's still around. The bad situation is a perfect example of what I meant. I've been so cruel to her in the village, and to be perfectly honest, Eustace wasn't exactly kind to her in the cart either. But Moira's instinct was to bring us closer together. There's a simple beauty to that. I think so, at least. Moira's room is tidy and elegant. Hedwig in the future. Tells her audience not to mention that she thought and simple in a good way, that she thought Moira was simple. Alright. Anyway, I quickly identified an impeccably folded set of clothes next to a bed underneath the window. I scooped them up quickly. As I turned around, however... No. The pile of clothes I was carrying, I think, had brushed up against the quill resting atop the desk. I watched it tumble tumble end over end to the floor, carrying the inkpot with it. No! Black ink oozed out of the pile of broken glass. Hedwig grabs, the fresh clothes, folded underneath the window, beside the bed, but accidentally knocks over a quill and inkpot, which shatters. I scurried away and closed the door behind me in a panic. I checked the bottom of my shoes. There was nothing there, thank God. In reality, it was dead silent. But I promise you, I could hear the bubbling, oozing, and dripping of the undoubtedly expensive ink I just splashed all over the floor behind the door. It's not one thing, it's always another with me. Was I being punished for dawdling again? Should I have emphatically refused the offer of a bath and instead made a beeline to the Superior's office? Should I have gone then at the very moment? Truthfully,
only came to that conclusion a bit later. In the actual moment, all I could think about was what to say to Moira, or if I would say anything at all. Shameful to admit, but I was frankly terrified of putting any strain on our relationship at all after my embarrassing display in town. Moira was endlessly forgiving, but I was worried that even I could find an end to her graciousness if I kept imposing upon her. And so I decided I would leave this. I couldn't leave quickly enough. I practically flew down the stairs. Hedwig makes the impulsive decision not to talk about, to just leave the mess. Suddenly I was very eager to get into a bath. Nothing goes better than being caught red-handed with a broken bottle of ink, even burying myself in front of Moira and Eustace. His face. Moira, please. There's nothing going on in that head, apparently. Moira was already in the tub by the time I arrived. She beamed as I entered the room. I kept my eyes low and deposited a change of clothes close to the edge of the wooden tub. Was Eustace waylaid? Yes, Darcy needed her for something. Well, thank you kindly. I realized there were 2 tubs similar to the ones I'd used to bathe my first time out of the cell. At the very least, I was relieved I was about to submerge myself in water, rather than stand awkwardly in one of the many smaller wash basins stacked against the wall. I'd been using those to wash myself whenever I could squeeze in a trip to the bath alone after I discovered, to some horror, that communal bathing was considered the norm here. I thought the 2 big tubs might be nice. The water's not hot, but it's pleasant. You filled these up fast. A miracle of engineering. The abbey is quaint, I will say, but I'm very thankful for the thorough plumbing. The builders didn't skimp on that, at the very least. She raised an arm to point to the wall behind her, and I instinctively shut my eyes. Don't be silly. Anyway, the faucets are back there. They're quite quick. I had my own faucet at my cell, actually. I didn't know it was connected to anything greater. Oh, you should take a walk around the cistern one of these days. It's quite fascinating. It's the oldest building here, if you can believe it. 200 years old at least, and it serves the kitchen, the baths, the lavatorium, and it keeps it all separate. I'm glad to hear it's all separate. I'd never feel comfortable here otherwise. But it's apparently not far from the kind of water management you'd find in the richest castles. Surely we're blessed. Alright. Moira has prepared 2 great tubs of water in the baths. It's not hot, but it's pleasant water. Yeah, it's pleasant. Hedwig had been avoiding the communal bathing and just using the wash basins. What else? The cistern is the oldest building on the property and does some complex plumbing to keep plumbing to keep the lavatorium, kitchen, and baths properly watered. Did I type in cistern? Nope. Cistern. Cistern act. It might not always feel that way, but yes, I should have. I think we are. How does it work? I must admit, I couldn't tell ya. Sister Catherine showed me a diagram she found in the library once, but it was a bit complicated for me. Moira isn't sure exactly how it all works. But Catherine once showed her a diagram in the library. I know so much more about how bodies work than buildings, I'm afraid. Speaking of, she loved to finger at me with a mischievous glint in her eye. You're going to get in the bath. You're looming a bit. Well, go on. I'll shut my eyes, I promise. She squeezed her eyes shut in a fashion that might have been intended to be jovial, but I couldn't help but feel condescended to. Nevertheless, I sighed and began to gingerly shed my layers. I balled up my damp clothes next to the bathtub, then stepped in as quickly as I could. If I could avoid being seen at all, that would have been grand. I take it you're in. I am. The water was not as warm as the bath Darcy had drawn for me after I'd first left my cell, but it was still a relief to sink into it. Moira opened her eyes again, blinking comically. Legs. This is nice. Indeed. I sank as low as I could and pulled my knees up to my chest. My chin rested in the water. I could still peer Moira over the lip of the tub. I did not want to be seen, but I also did not want to be rude. At the very least, I maintained eye contact. Black and blue. Excuse me. Sorry, I was just thinking aloud. Your humors. They're black and blue, aren't they? Blue? Blue is phlegm? Hey. Mostly black. With a little flame for color. Does that sound about right? Let's see. Moira guesses. I thought phlegm was supposed to be white. Let's see. Moira guesses that Hedwig's humors are blue and black. Mostly black, with some phlegm. I don't know why this is coming up. No points for guessing that, I reckon. Eustace had appeared in the doorway. She was already removing her hood as the door closed. I looked away out of modesty as soon as I saw that she was casually shedding all of her clothes and haphazardly tossing them aside as she walked. Oh, it's my job to notice these things? Do me next. That's easy. You're as flamey as they come, with just as much yellow bile sloshing around in there for good measure. You're like a big, clever soup. Goodness gracious. Eustace shows up and asks what her humors are. Moira says equal parts phlegm and yellow bile. That's what you said, right? Yeah. When are we eloping? Moira laughed and I could hear her flick some water in Eustace's direction. Then I realized something that gave me an instant sinking feeling. Well then, who am I sharing with? Oh, good question. I didn't think about that. I'll hurry up and decide. It's getting nippy. Can we not get a third tub? We only have the two big ones. We could play a game to decide. Too late, I made my mind up. I braced myself, but splashing sounds came that followed came from the other tub. Okay. Well, we got all three of them here. We might as well take that screenshot. Alright, let's see. Eustace looks taller than she comes across in her sprites. Is she one of those people that just, like, feels shorter than they actually are? I wonder. I opened my eyes to see Eustace, looking as nonplussed as ever, sitting next to Moira, who seemed wholly unperturbed. Acts short. She has short person energy. Hedwig kind of has tall girl who stoops over energy. That's what I get from her. Let's see. Eventually, Eustace gets into shares the tub with Moira. What is happening in this area? Awkward beanpole, right? I opened my eyes to Eustace, looking. Okay, I already read that part. Thank God, I thought. I've never seen you without your cap, Hedwig. Oh, she does have black hair. I guessed right. Did I mention that I thought that she had black hair? I don't know. It kept coming up that she was like that she had black bile, and I was looking up the humors one day, and there was like, for some reason it's associated with black hair, or like with hair colors, and I was like, that she's gonna have black hair. I'd guess he had black hair, but I suppose I'm still surprised to see it. Really? I feel like I knew the moment I saw her. Whom is that pronounced? She is a scene kid. She's a scene girl. Yes, but whose aren't? Yes, but whose aren't? You put much more stock in that sort of thing than I do, I suppose. Well, it's my duty to know. Oh, sorry. It's my duty to know. True enough. What colour do you think my hair is, Hedwig? You're always wearing that thing in the bath, but I think I know. Hedwig has black hair, it turns out. Eustace is a bit surprised. But Moira knew for sure because of the humors. Moira apparently always... Moira is actually bald. She's bald. Always wears the cap, so not even Eustace knows her hair color. I'm asking Hedwig. Moira is still wearing her cap. I mean, Eustace has the advantage of having seen Moira naked before, so... He adjusted out ahead, dripping water onto Eustace's bushy brown hair in the process. Yeah, they'd know, right? I wouldn't really know how to deduce that. Take a wild guess. I frowned, squinting at Moira's eyebrows from across the room. Some sort of, I don't know, dark brown? Chestnut brown? Does the accent not give it away? I guess she's a redhead. She is Irish, so I guess she's a redhead. Does the accent not give it away? Moira elbowed Eustace, chuckling. No cheating. I guess, feels like there's a clue you want me to recognize that I'm just not seeing. Hedwig doesn't know about Irish stereotypes, apparently. Hearing. Top of the morning to you, Hedwig. I don't get it. Oh my god. Don't say that. With an impish grin, Moira tugged her cap a little. Oh, she has black hair. A few locks of jet black hair draped across her face. Oh. Just like you, Hedwig. How nice. How nice. Consider me surprised. Did you expect a fiery Irish redhead? You win. How? I guess Eustace hasn't been looking. Let's see. Turns out she's got black hair, like Hedwig. I genuinely had no idea what she was talking about. Anyway. Oh yeah, Hedwig also apparently does not understand Irish stereotypes, the Irish stereotypes that Eustace was getting at. In fact, I was slightly irritated. I hadn't expected anything. How could I have? Even the considerate and kind Moira couldn't remember that until recently. My entire world had been a few meters across. Sorry for the misdirect. Couldn't help myself. Red-headed... like, David? Huh? King David had red hair? Thought he had brown hair. What does it say in the Bible? He's described as Rufus, which means red-headed. Oh, always took that to mean he was, you know, red-faced. As in his whole head was red. Really? Well, I could see that interpretation, but... besides, in Song of Solomon, I remember thusly, Delectus meas candidus et rubicundus. My lover is red-headed, his hair curling black. Huh?
Red-headed, hair curly and black. Does not compute. Caput eis aurum optimum, comae eis sicut alatae palmarum nicrae quasi corvus. So black like a crow. This is gold. Head. I don't know what eos means at all. I don't know what komae means either. Golden face is used similarly to red-headed here, I should think. You might be right. This is so exciting. I'm caught between two true scholars. Feels like I'm at a real council. It's a job. That's right. Still, I like Hedwig's interpretation. It's fun to think about David having red hair. That's dramatic. I didn't care for Moira's use of the word interpretation here. Either useless was correct or I was. I didn't much like the idea of being wrong, but I was grateful for the support. The conversation subsided for a while, and I became too aware of the fact that this peculiar state for three women who had been at each other's throats early in the day to find themselves. This was a peculiar state for three women who'd been at each other's throats early in the day to find themselves. They started talking about King David, who Hedwig insists had red hair. Eustace disagrees. And they have a little debate in Latin. Scriptures. Debate. Scriptural. Debate. Is scriptural not a word? It's gotta be a word. Anyway, debate about the scripture. One more, enthuses. Scriptalicious. Is that a flavor of bubblegum? Got fruit by the foot, except it's like wrapped up in like a scroll of papyrus. I worried that Eustace and Moira felt the same way and prodded them with questions. So, do you all do this often? I should hope so. Bathing is very important for your health. I think she means, you know, together. Oh yes, well, it's a little embarrassing at first, I suppose, but it's a fashion, isn't it? I don't really plan around it, but there's enough of us here that you're going to run into someone else eventually. Some things are done the world over. The Romans had huge communal bathhouses. Monks wash together too. I must admit though, a private bath every now and then is to die for. I suppose I've been lucky. Whenever I've come to use a wash basin so far, I've been all by myself. Is it difficult, being around other people, I mean? I really should have made sure this wouldn't be too big of a leap for you. Especially after the day you've had. I'm quite alright. But I'd rather no one looked at me. Ever. She's got a different... their expressions. They're like, what the fuck do you mean, girl? That's right. Not while I'm the nude, certainly. It's nothing. We haven't seen before. They spoke in unison. Used to stand low, Moira way up high. Still, all the same. But I understand. But I understand. If I take my spectacles off, you'll just be a pale smudge. That'd help. I would prefer that over being defined. Right you are. Pop them off when it's time to dry off. By the way, Eustace, are you ever worried you'll drop your eyeglasses in the water? Those are really expensive, surely. Unbelievably. I'm lucky to have them. Let's see here. Hedwig wonders if communal bathing happens often. Moira... yeah, I guess Eustace, this is mainly Eustace, it says that it's not really possible to avoid bathing at the same time as someone else. Yeah, they all have at least one expensive thing, it seems. Moira says it's nice to bathe alone every now and then, though. Moira asks Eustace if her glasses are, or if she's scared of losing her glasses in the water, as they're very expensive. They're huge. I dread to think of how much they cost. Is glass expensive? Very. Oh goodness, yes. I'm sure you've noticed that there aren't too many glass windows here. Except apparently you've got glass windows in the bath. Glass in general is expensive. Let me think. There's the Superior's office window, the chapel. I've had these for a long time, and I hope they last. My eyesight's always been dreadful, but it could always get worse. It's just acrylic. Goodness, I'll pray for your sake. I wouldn't wish cutting on my worst enemy. Cutting? You cut the eye open and then... Oh, I won't go into the details. Thank you. So Eustace, tell us. How did you afford those? That's a little forward, don't you think? True, but we're already in the bath, aren't we? Fair enough. I did some work for a glassmaker a long time ago and took these instead of monetary payment. Eustace acquired hers after helping a glassmaker. Yeah, okay, nothing specific. She took them instead of monetary payment. Oh, what sort of work? Same as do here, really. Information organization, maintaining a library. How did you do that without your glasses? Managing orders and logging events, that sort of thing. I was about to say that sounds like a lot of work even for a pair of glasses. But I suppose none of us are being paid at all here. I get by fine. I don't miss the old job. What made you come out? What made you come out here? And I'd always wanted to retire to the countryside. And once I had a sturdy pair of glasses, I reasoned. What else could I possibly want for? I don't know. A rich husband, a beautiful home. I never wanted those things. Nor I. I did once upon a time. Nah, though. I agree with you, I think. She went to join the abbey, or to become a nun soon after. Neither Hedwig nor Eustace really had much interest in finding a husband or having a nice home. Moira did once, but she says she doesn't care much about it anymore. At the very least, it'll take more than that to get me away from here. You know, over the past few weeks, I've been so overwhelmed by everything new to me here. I'm not sure I will ever truly get used to it. This level of asceticism might feel simple to you, but it will never be simple to me. I was prepared to spend my whole life with much less than all this. That is a very helpful perspective, actually. Yes. That's important to keep in mind, I think. Are you feeling better after everything? Everything that's happened today, Hedwig? I don't know. Most of all, I just feel embarrassed. As I feel about my behavior in the Misericorde, yet still. Forget about it. Yes, there's no need to worry, really. I think I would fare worse if I were in your shoes. And we can help you get better. In fact, I think it's our responsibility. Perhaps it was because we were all relaxed from our baths. Or perhaps there was something to be said for being naked and vulnerable in a room with other people after all.
But the second round of apologies for the day felt genuine. I wondered how the ink on Moira's floor was faring. It was hard to relax with that in the back of my mind. Conversation slowed as we all focused on washing and scrubbing, and I soon realized that the most difficult challenge was yet to come. When we're all done, it's time to, get dressed. Can I go first? Of course, but why? We've all been talking about... I'm not used to all of this, and... it's a bit embarrassing. Yes, that's it exactly. Wouldn't it be more embarrassing having us just sit here watching you? Don't confuse her. Can't help. No, she's right. I mean, the most embarrassing would be all of us at once. Why? Because then you'll both see me, and I'll see both of you, and we'll be close to each other. What if Eustace and I both close our eyes? That would work. Would it? What if you two went first and I closed my eyes? That seems more, I don't know, efficient? I wasn't aware efficiency was a concern. Honestly, this is the most I've ever had to think about being naked. Hedwig, I appreciate the offer, but I'm happy with letting you go first. And closing our eyes? Yes, don't be difficult. We just said we'd do our best to make her comfortable. I've no problem with that, Budley. But doesn't it feel a bit weird to worry about this much about seeing each other in the buff? Naked I came from my mother's room and all that. Who cares? It's not for us to judge. It is a little bit. What about Matthew 5:28 or Leviticus 18:9? Again with Leviticus. Well, not actually sisters. I don't think that passage applies. Sister is a term of formal address that has nothing to do with being actual siblings of any sort. I know you know that. She's right, of course, but that just irritated me more. Naked, she doesn't want them to see her horns. I'd really been accounting on my superior scriptural knowledge. Yeah, she says scriptural, so it's not scriptural. Excuse me from being personally embarrassed, but alas. Why is it pasture and pastoral, huh? Why that, huh? English? Thinking about it. Hedwig, I know this might be difficult. Wait. Thinking about it. Hedwig, I know this might be difficult. But how about we all just try doing it the normal way? Getting out and getting dressed all at once. I think Eustace is right to some degree. You just... In what sense? That it'll be more difficult in the long run if you don't get used to it. I don't think there's anything you need to worry about. I'll just keep bathing alone when there's no one else here. Can I make a decision before I get too prudy? I think we should all get out. I think we should all get out on the count of 3. You said you weren't going to push me as far anymore. Hedwig, there are 3 of us here, and we all like each other. We all like each other. We had a terrible day in the village, but you made it back in one piece. Surely this will be easy compared to what you went through around all those strangers. I don't want to push you, but I also want to help you. And part of that, I think, might involve pushing you just a little bit. She's right. If I have no choice, I had nothing left to argue with. My days had been thoroughly confusing, and if mingling naked with my shameless sisters was to be the capstone to the whole affair, so be it. I don't think it was Moira's argument that convinced me, however. Or rather, it might have been, but only because it made me consider the full weight of what I'd seen in my vision. I didn't know what it meant, but I certainly felt compelled by a newfound drive to stop stalling in every little aspect of my life. You do have a choice, but let's get this over with. So what if I get a glimpse of you? Suck it. Bill Schultz? Good lord, that's old-fashioned. I'm a fancy lady at heart. I took a deep breath and braced my arms against the edge of the tub. Eustace, however, was already standing up and drying herself off with a towel, and, I'd been meticulously detailed about every aspect of my days outside my cellar. Would you mind if I glossed over the rest of this? I don't feel particularly like describing Eustace and Moira's bodies any further, or my own for that matter. I've excised several minor details from my story, yes it is, after all. I have been exhaustive, I will grant, but I haven't told you every last meal I've eaten. I've not told you about every trip I've taken to the privies. Chronicle everything. I think our conversation in the baths was relevant information, but I think it will suffice to say that I did not enjoy getting dressed in front of my colleagues. But I was very brave about it. Alright, so she thought the bath conversation was relative. Did they really talk about anything between that and the husband's thing? Or was this entire oh, what was going on here? Alright. Bell chose is from Chaucer, I see. Let's see. They talk about wanting to make sure, or not pushing Hedwig as much so that she can get used to things in the Abbey at her own pace. Then Hedwig makes a big fuss about seeing the others get out of the tub naked. After a long discussion about this, Moira convinces Hedwig that they'll all just have to get over that. She'll just have to get over it, and they'll all get out at the same time to dress up. Why was this important? Why does Hedwig in the future think this is important? I don't know. You can rest assured of that. Pruning is just as much my responsibility as a chronicler as cataloging. Would you agree? Is she writing this in her chronicles now? Is this what's happening? But she's talking as if she has like an audience who's laughing. So who knows? What is important about this ordeal is that I was actually quite courageous and did not make any sort of scene at all. Are you sure? I got dressed alongside everyone else, and we departed the baths without incident. Incident, however, was not too far away. Alright, what happens now? So was this section. Well, you know what? This turned out to be a perfect name for this section. We didn't even know that they were going to take a bath. Alright. As we passed the rectory and the wall to the cloister, Moira gently grabbed my wrist. Hedwig, why don't we go in here? Whatever for? Well, there's something I want to show you. In the rectory. We should go in. I was completely bewildered. The pair positioned themselves on either side of me and pushed me toward the steps up to the large wooden door. Were they preparing like a surprise party for her? Is that what Moira was... Oh my god, that's what happened. Oh my god. Oh my god, They took her out into the town. They're preparing fucking dinner for her. That's what Moira was like whispering to Eustace. And like, we're supposed to keep her out in the town longer so that so she doesn't show up early. And that's why Darcy went to pick up Eustace, because Darcy needed Eustace's help with preparing stuff. And that's why they took this long bath together. Oh my god, they were preparing. She made Moira cry because Moira was trying to keep a surprise party from being spoiled. Jesus Christ. Perfect for someone uncomfortable with being the center of attention. True. Alright, let's see what actually happens, though. Surprise. What is it? Moira and Eustace tell Hedwig that they've got to go visit the conservatory, or the rectory,
conservatory. Oh no, I thought, this is it. I knew I was nosing around about Catherine's death. They were ghosts. They're gonna have me killed. And I think I'll stay outside if it's all the same to you. Stop wriggling. Just go inside. Let's just go inside and we'll take a moment. Oh, thank you. What are you two doing? I'll skate. Girl. I pushed through the large wooden doors. I stumbled backwards into the room, bumping my backside into a chair I held onto to stay upright. Gingerly, I turned around and... Took you long enough? A crowd was gathered around the rectory table, which was itself so laden with food I could scarcely believe it had buckled. Everyone present was smiling widely, and I felt reassured at the very least that I was not about to be murdered in a dark room. Hedwig panics and thinks that she's going to be murdered. But she is coaxed inside. Anyway. Inside is a whole bunch of them smiling. The table is overfilled with food. Welcome back, Hedwig. How was the village? It was a valuable experience. Glad to hear it. What is all of this? A few days ago, some of the sisters approached me with a reminder that Saint Cecilia's feast day was approaching, which, if I'm not mistaken, would be the feast day closest to your date of birth, yes? I think so. Superior says that they are celebrating Saint Cecilia's feast day. Is it Cecilia with 2 E's or 2 I's? 2 I's. Cecilia's feast day, which is the closest the feast day to Hedwig's day of birthday. Date of birth. I never had so much need to track my birthdays whilst I was Anchoress. Only one eye like a cool nun. Ooh. Christmas was my mental marker for the passage of time. Although, once I thought about it, I did remember receiving a more handsomely prepared meal once every autumn, for a few years when I was still a child in my cell. My friends suggested we celebrate. I must admit, St. Cecilia's Day is one that we have often neglected to mark with a proper feast day. But we all agreed it would be appropriate to throw a little bash for you. And for her saintliness, of course. I don't know what to say. Start with thanks, then we can go from there. Everyone chuckled. I smiled graciously, even though Darcy's remark felt far more cutting than she likely intended. How rude of me! Thank you. Thank you all very much. Everyone murmured appreciatively in response, and moved toward the seats. Moira patted me on the back as she walked to her seat with a twinkle in her eye. Everyone began plating food from the generous piles of poultry, fish, and vegetables in front of them. I thought I recognized some of the carrots I'd helped Darcy harvest not long ago. A plump roast duck sat in the center of the table. I bet Eustace kicked that duck and it died. Oh, that's okay. That's what Eustace was dragged down for. Darcy needed help killing a duck. Okay, that makes sense. It all looked and smelled delicious. I apologized for the little ruse. Moira suggested the surprise. Guilty. Everyone here contributed a little, however. Isn't that right? I do believe my general idea at first, if we're collecting accolades. Or it was my general idea at first, if we're collecting accolades. Yes, but I remember the feast day. Darcy somehow found time to direct the preparation of this meal and bake those wonderful fritters of hers to take to the village. Speaking of, did any of those make it back? No, we gave everything away. Shame. But not a surprise. I'm sure the town couldn't get enough of them. You all helped in the kitchen, too. I was distracted for a moment. Yes, Margaret, Adela, and Flora all graciously helped prepare the meal while you were in the baths. Which, let us not forget, I had drawn beforehand. That wasn't a spontaneous suggestion on Moira's part.
This is all so elaborate. Nobody's ever done anything like this for me before.
All right, let us record everything that everyone did. Catherine came up with the idea. Darcy remembered the feast day. She also cooked the food, prepared the food, alongside baking the fritters. Adela prepared the baths. Flora, who was it? Flora, Margaret, and Adela helped with the meal. Also helped with the meal. And don't you forget it. Oh, and don't you forget it. I don't remember Catherine's voice, I'm sorry. Another chuckle went around the whole table. I smiled weakly. Tears were welling up behind my eyes. Marta and I had the very important duty of taste testing. That's right. And guess who's at the table? Well, thank you very much. This is... hang easy. Charity and Marta helped taste test. I like how Flora's still just like angry face. Angry teenager face. Even like, I helped. This is what's going on here. You very much. This is... I could feel everyone staring at me expectantly. This is really wonderful. I shook my words out, overcome with too many emotions at once. Mercifully, being on the verge of subbing past the simple gratitude to everyone present. I was thankful, but I was also confused, anxious, hurt. Terrified, as I mentioned, too many things at once. I did not deserve any of this. I was not anyone's friend. I was a liar and a sneak. A dog set loose in the coop to root out a fox. I gawked across the table at the Superior, who smiled back at me. I think the Superior needs to have a talk with Hedwig. Hedwig does not have the right expectations about what the Superior wants. And the Superior isn't properly... I guess the Superior is so in her own head about it that she hasn't figured out that Hedwig is not dealing with things, or like is not having the right emotional responses to a lot of things. I found it incredible that nobody had got caught in the puppet strings connecting her and I as I reached between us for food. And as it is Saint Cecilia's feast day, I will be performing a little composition of mine in the chapel as our meal concludes. If anyone would like to join me for a rehearsal beforehand, I would appreciate the assistance. Margaret, Catherine. I'd rather... There's nowhere I'd rather be, but I do think we have some urgent matters to attend to once this is over. Urgent? Well, we're helping prepare this for most of the day. I have some important tasks I set aside. It's my pleasure, just so you know, Hedwig. Of course. Well, if it's urgent, of course you may be excused. The Superior is a little... The Superior is a little dumb. I think she's just a little bit silly. A little bit unobservant. The Superior wants to do a little performance later. Margaret and Catherine, they go. Using their work as an excuse. Since when is there anything around here urgent? Flora glares at Catherine, who maintained an utterly innocent expression. To everyone else, barring any emergencies, you are invited and encouraged to assist. Either way, we must all convene in the chapel later. This was met with a ripple of non-committal murmuring. I could tell the food was excellent, as was to be expected. But as I ate, I felt like I was sitting next to myself. I could not taste the juicy duck or the rich gravy. I was having it described to me secondhand. Everything I could taste, smell, hear, and see felt like it wasn't really there.
Are you feeling well, Sister Hedwig? Huh? Oh, my apologies. I've had a long day. What was it like going down to the village? Must have been quite an adventure for you. It was... I'm afraid I did not adjust to the experience as well as I could have. It was all a bit stressful. But I think she'll do better next time. Perhaps a picnic or some such. Yes, we more or less came up with the same idea, didn't we, Hedwig? That's right. Wonderful news. I do apologize for the stressful assignment, Hedwig. It was the best I could come up with on short notice. She took a sip of wine, but kept her eyes on me. I suppose it was all worth it for this. Hear, hear. Although I'm not sure. I was not sure if I was worth all this trouble. I'm not sure how I can repay you for all of this. Just help them throw parties for the others. What do you mean? Come on, girl. You've all been very kind, and well... You do not have to repay us for any of this. Absolutely not. That isn't the point. You really must feel like you're doing something for us in return, you keep your self-flagellation to a minimum. You can indulge us in some questions about yourself. You've been out of that cell for weeks now, and I still don't feel like I know you as well as I should. That's a fantastic idea. If she's up to it. No escape. I'll do my best. In that case, where are you from? Hedwig asks what she can do to repay for the party, which she feels she doesn't deserve. The others say that she doesn't have to do anything, but they would like to get to know her a little better. Where are you from? Germany is where I was born, but I don't remember anything about it. Suppose you could say I'm from here? You do not remember anything about where you were born? There's very little I can recall about my life before I took my oaths, I'm afraid. She was born in Germany, but she doesn't remember much about life before her oaths. Is there anything at all you can remember? Any particular places? Your parents? No. I don't have any recollections of my mother or father. I'm sorry. Crumbs, there's no need to apologize. I just can't imagine what that's like. Don't listen to her, Hedwig. That sounds positively blissful. Hedwig von Lindbarrow. I do remember one thing, I think. It's hard to know, in fact, if it's a memory at all. But it is, at the very least, something I know I could never have picked up in my cell. Everyone leaned forward slightly. I remember the smell of the ocean. That's all. But for the most part. The little bits and pieces I associate with that smell if I try my hardest to recall, but nothing substantial. Her strongest memory is the smell of the ocean, which is tied to little bits and pieces of other things. I was about to say that the smell of the ocean is one of my strongest memories as well. You and I have more in common than I expected, Sister Hedwig. Can you speak any other languages? I don't think so. My grasp of her own language leaves much to be desired. I'm not sure a second one would find purchase in my head. There's no way you got to like 9 years old without learning German, so you definitely know German. Perhaps you could forget a few phrases like find purchase to make room. Catherine. I remember the saltiness of the sea, and if I try hard enough, I think... Maybe she moved away from Germany really soon after being born. But that doesn't explain why she knows she was born in Germany then. Or even the city she's from. What was it? Trier? think I could describe the sound of the waves. Beyond that, my earliest memories are... well, the Office of the Dead. Ah, how beautiful. Bit morbid for a first memory. I don't find it morbid. First memory is the Office of the Dead, whatever that is. Laura finds a bit morbid. But Hedwig doesn't agree. It's a very comforting memory, actually. The bishop read it for you, I presume. I would have liked to have witnessed that. It was before my time. 20 years ago, I had just taken my vows at Bourne-Grove. Yes. All in all, I remember it being quite a moving ceremony. That's lovely. Let's see, so... does that mean that the superior is what? If she only took her rights 20 years ago, that would make her probably like 40 max. If she went in like fairly late. Like, we know Catherine hasn't been here particularly long. She's in her like mid, possibly late 20s. She's like the youngest one here other than Flora, I think. Also, she's supposed to be pretty tall. And Flora is only 19, and she made her vow. She had her vows like 5 years ago. You get them before committing your life into a hole. I see. I'm glad it's a positive memory for you. After that, it mostly becomes a blur. They're rearranged. Not in a bad way. More like the rest of my life up until then. Until very recently was one long meditation. Flora's a young nun too. True. She went in really early. Then again, Hedwig went in when she was like fucking 9. So things tend to move faster or slower all at once in a small place, don't they? No? Time is the same, is always the same, I think. Yeah, clearly Darcy has never heard of relativity. Makes a fair bit of sense to me, actually. It certainly describes how I felt after moving here. Which reminds me, how were my old stomping grounds, Hedwig? Seriously, how does a 9-year-old end up in Anchorus, right? Did anyone mention me? She shot me an oddly piercing look. No, I'm afraid not. Shame. Sure the place is falling apart without me. Let's see. Catherine asks if anybody in town asked about her. Hedwig says no. Or talked about her. Hedwig says no. Grapes they've been sending up to us haven't been tasting as good ever since you left. You know what? I think you're right. Eat. You mustn't let all this food go to waste. I do in the chapel for that little recital. Everyone groaned, and the table-wide conversations dissipated as the sisters ate their fill. My stomach was still rather uneasy. I tried to eat as much of the admittedly delicious meal as I could, but I could not keep up with any of the others. I watched the others eat as I picked at my own plate. Couldn't help but notice that Angela was not present. I was not surprised that an event, even partially in my honor, did not interest her. The superior interrupts the conversation, however, and tells everyone to finish eating because they will need to go to the chapel. Angela is not present. I guess Angela is the only one. I was inclined to agree with Angela's assessment. I was not worth this level of pageantry. As I forced the last bits of food down my throat, all I could think of was the disappointment Moira would feel as soon as she entered the dorms. Her unwarranted kindness towards me would dissipate instantly as soon as she realized what had happened. I looked across the table at her innocent, smiling face. The face that hid nothing behind, no thoughts behind it. She would hate me the instant she truly knew me. The piles of food slowly wore down to nothing. Conversation began to start back up again, a bit quieter and calmer. Everyone it seemed, was at peace after this decadent meal in my name. I'll never get tired of your cooking, Darcy. Thanks, I'll never get tired of doing it. Thank goodness for that. Really good work, Darcy. Really good work, Darcy. Everyone chimed in with a murmured agreement. Even Flora looked uncharacteristically content. It was a lovely meal, Darcy. Thank you, everyone. If you would all excuse me, I must go and prepare for the recital while this gets cleaned up. Would you assist me, Hedwig? Yes, Superior. On our own feast day? What did she do to deserve this? More than Catherine could know. I don't mind. In truth, I couldn't wait to be free of the crowded rectory, if only for a few minutes. I gave the sisters a polite bow of my head and followed the Superior out of the room. The rain had ceased just as our meal had concluded. We walked briskly along the path between the rectory and the chapel. The evening air was cool and pleasant after the rain, though dark clouds were still threatening above us. The Superior seemed oddly tense as we approached the large doors. Somehow I knew nobody would volunteer to help me in the chapel. But it made for a good show, don't you think? Nobody will suspect a thing. My apologies, Superior, but I have no idea what you mean. She did not reply. The Superior held open the heavy chapel door for me and ushered me inside. I obliged and felt let out an embarrassing yelp as I saw two people waiting for me inside. One was large and stately. I did not recognize him. The other... It's about time. Okay. The Superior... volunteers Hedwig to help her prepare for the recital in the chapel. After dinner, so the two head there. Inside, waiting, is Angela. I guess our Angela. And someone tall that Hedwig does not recognize. My apologies, Sister Angela. Angela had been sitting in a pew near the altar, but she'd risen to meet us as soon as the door opened. There was no mistaking her lanky form, even in the dim evening light. The person sitting next to her, however, Sister Hedwig. You have met this man before, though you may not recognize him. It's the Bishop! Friar Tuck? I wish we could be meeting under more pleasant circumstances, my child. But it is nonetheless a pleasure to see you in the flesh once more. It's the Bishop. Okay, it's Bishop Richard. So we have a name for him now. Let's add these names to the list, I guess. Bishop Richard. We don't know anything about him. Farmer. And his wife. James Foreman's uncle. Lives with his wife. Hey Deezy, how's it going? We know he's a dick. Long live Bishop Richard. Alright. We don't really have any other characters to take a note of right now, so it's Bishop Richard. Hold on a second. Do I have Tamper Monkey.
No scripts were running. YouTube was doing an auto-translate thing for some reason. I don't know why. Anyway. I wish we could be meeting under more pleasant circumstances, my child. But it is nonetheless a pleasure to see you in the flesh once more.
It is an honor to meet you again, Mr.
This is His Excellency Richard Bell, the Bishop of Carlisle. Was it Bell with an E? Or Bishop of Carlisle?
My goodness, my apologies, Your Grace.
The portly man gently waved away my apology. We know he's a bishy. Worry not. I have met no one else in a situation as unique as yours. I realize this must still be very strange to you.
He knows.
Yes. Oh, Angela's in the know now! Oh. That means... Does that mean the Superior doesn't think Angela helped? Interesting. I briefed both him and Angela on the extent of our investigation this afternoon.
I cannot believe it.
Alright. Superior has told both Angela and the Bishop about the investigation. I gulped at Angela, who made a point of looking straight past me. My travels brought me here a little earlier than expected. Such a tragic situation, I felt I should be more present than my usual monthly visit for the sacrament allows. I'll be here for just over a week to offer counsel to the grieving.
And our investigation shall continue apace.
The man sighed heavily. I appreciate your diligence, but it sounds to me as if you're staring the answer, in the face and refusing to believe it.
I do not think it's that simple. I believe, as does Hedwig, after her own extensive research, that James Foreman is innocent.
Which would mean one of your charges is a murderer. How could you even entertain such a ghastly idea?
Call it one of my hunches. Have I been wrong before?
Maple, come now.
Have I? Superior, we know the Superior's name. Her name is Mabel.
The Bishop isn't quite so sure about, James Foreman's innocence, as the Superior seems to be. His nickname is Dipper. We never did find out what Dipper's real name was. Maybe his name was Richard. Have I?
What have the other hunches been?
I told you I had a bad feeling about building a clock tower onto the side of the chapel. Wait, I had a bad feeling about building a clock tower to the side of the chapel was a foolish idea. What? I think the sentence got mulched in editing. And lo and behold, it fell down not a month into construction. A lucky guess. I have a storied career of lucky guesses then, Your Excellency. The Superior, lauds herself on having good hunches. However, she brings up an incident with a clock tower that she thought should not be built. It fell over during construction. Who was embezzling the clock tower construction? It was Angela, obviously. Before I was appointed abbess, this place was on death's doorstep. I have cultivated and pruned it into a garden. A simple one perhaps, but a garden nonetheless. I do not mean to insult you, Mabel. In fact, it is my respect for your work that gives me such pause. How could I believe that one of the sisters you preside over, many of whom came into the church under your selection, would be capable of such a thing? I seriously do think that there was some kind of, like, accident. And then... The thing is, though, I could have believed that before. But now we know that there's a rumor about Catherine... Catherine with a K. That she cut her own husband's head off. And that makes it seem like even if it was an accident, someone was definitely trying to frame Catherine for it. Superior did not have an answer for this. I recall that I could hear her teeth grinding in the ensuing silence. Very loud grinding. I do applaud your ingenuity in recognizing that Hedwig here would be an impartial observer, but it seems to me this whole situation has gotten out of hand. Please forgive this hypothetical, dear sister, but why is Angela a part of this trusted circle now? I would like to note that I too believe James Foreman is guilty. I'm just entertaining your superior's logic for a moment, if you will allow me. Of course. Well, Mabel, Hedwig I understand, but what places Angela above suspicion? Sister Angela is my prior. It would be impossible, as well as unethical, for me to continue to keep this investigation from her. She found James and accused him to begin with. I would like to put her belief through its paces. She is to be her successor. He wonders why Angela has been brought into the fold. Superior. Alright, so Angela, who also believes James Foreman is guilty. The Superior thinks that it is unethical for her to continue keeping the investigation a secret from Angela. And she also thinks that it will put her belief about James through its paces, as it says exactly. She's to be her successor. Indeed. And while I disagree with her position on Mr. Foreman's alleged crime, I love and respect her. I would like this to be a learning experience for her. My dearest Mabel, I know you love and respect all of your nuns. Why then must you believe that one of them is a killer? And why couldn't it be Angela? The Superior and Angela looked at each other. Angela grimaced. Well, grimaced more prominently than usual, sassy. I can account for all of my movements the night Catherine was murdered. I'm sure everyone here can. And they can be vouched for. Oh? Angela was in my office at the likeliest time of Catherine's slaying. In your office? Complaining. I was vigorously arguing against the misapplication of yet more of the Abbey's funds. Angela has an alibi. She was complaining about spending inappropriate spending at the Abbey. She was complaining to the Superior. God. Such a funny alibi. Her alibi is that she fucking sucks. And requested action be taken against some of our sisters' poor behavior. There may have been more items on my list. It is my responsibility as prior to protect the Superior when I sense things are wrong. Nobody could possibly overlook your diligence. You mean to tell me that her alibi is that she was arguing with you long enough to be sure she was not involved? Forgive me, but that sounds rather unbelievable. The Superior and I exchanged a glance. Angela looked away and exhaled sharply. It's true. All eyes turned to me. As ludicrous as the story sounded, I thought back to my conversations with the Superior in her office. The walls in that door were thick. As angry as it made me to imagine Catherine's death being overlooked by the Abbey's authority, simply because they were bickering, it was all too plausible. That is... believable, actually. My goodness! How do my... Angela's gonna be so fucking pissed about everything. Even the bishop's making fun of her now. Punching bag Angela. I'll do my best to stay on your good side, Sister Angela. Keep that in mind, Your Excellency. Why didn't you tell me this before? Either of you. I'd hoped to inform you last night, as it happens. The bishop, at first, doesn't find this, believable. But Hedwig confirms that she finds it incredibly plausible. Hedwig wonders why she hadn't been told the alibi before. Angela was going to tell her the night before. Was it the night before? Yeah. I thought back to the events of the previous evening. Angela had indeed said something to me before leaving the Misericorde. Was that really just last night? Dang. Or rather, before she was practically chased out by Catherine. My understanding of these events suddenly felt a little clearer. It suddenly explained why Catherine bristled so much at Angela's presence. Did Catherine perhaps detect an ulterior motive in Angela? The same motive that so far nobody detected in me? I made the decision very recently. The day before yesterday, in fact. It has been conspicuous enough to have you emerge from your cell and start poking around into these horrific events. Two of you at once would have been a touch obvious, I should think. I would have refused to do it. I would have refused to do it. So Angela has also been snooping. That's why she's been a bit worse recently. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, they mentioned that she had gotten worse since the death of Catherine. We know she didn't really like Catherine that much. So it's because the superior put her up to it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Alright. Okay. I'm gonna ask this as a question because it's not exactly confirmed, it's just merely strongly implied. Has the superior, did the superior have two people independently doing investigation? This would explain why Angela's behavior, or more than she's actually got all of the nuns investigating each other. It's like a game of Among Us. This would explain why Angela's behavior. Oh my god, this is Among Us. Nun-us. This would explain why Angela's behavior apparently changed after Catherine's death. And now? Now it seems I have no choice, Your Excellency. You're in a strange situation, to be sure. But I think between us, we can make sure justice is done. I will stay out of your way. I do not wish to involve myself in any investigation. It feels rather wrong for me to be anything but an impartial visitor. He's gonna be the judge at the end. Of course. However, if anything suspicious is told to you throughout the course of your counseling. Suspicious? Where would the line be? I believe I am giving you ample leeway to deal with the situation the way you see fit. I can think of precious few members of the diocese that would accept your actions in this situation, let alone grant you the freedom to make half the decisions you have made in the first place. I understand. Removing an anchoress from her cell is such a unique course of action, I would not even know where to begin explaining it to the Archbishop. I am not sure there is even precedent on the books for how you might be punished if this situation came to light. I hope for all of our sakes that your radical decisions here at least yield some results. If they did, I might have an easier time preventing you from being excommunicated. Or worse. I felt a lump building in my throat. I'd been so preoccupied with my fragile situation at the Abbey that I hadn't even considered the wider world of church politicking. Mentions that he's been letting the superior get away with a lot of things at the Abbey already. It puts them in a precarious situation. He doesn't want to cross any more lines than he has to, which includes not being involved with the investigation at all. We will solve this mystery, and I will be vindicated. I truly hope so. England is at war with itself. The last thing the church needs is to appear weak and ineffectual. It must be a beacon at all times. Beacon. A standard for the world to live up to. I will not fail. Very well. There was a moment of silence as we all collected ourselves. The Superior looked grimmer than I had ever seen her. She breathed deeply and seemed to stare right through the bishop, who was offering Angela and I an apologetic smile. Nobody spoke. There was little else to add, I suppose. The bishop turned to the Superior, his mood suddenly cheerful. I understand you're performing in a moment. It would be an honor to attend. Yes. Yes, of course. No! He snapped out of her dark expression. We've just had a feast day for Saint Cecilia, and I shall be performing a short composition in her honor. How delightful. Angela and Hedwig, I would like you two to meet with me in the office when we are done here. I would like you two to share your... Hello? Am I still too early? No. Come in, take a seat. The Superior asks Angela and Hedwig to meet in her office to collect I guess collect isn't the right word. What's the one I'm looking for? Collate. To put together their information. Afterward, as Catherine comes in. Catherine's smile evaporated when she saw Angela and I standing together. She looked away and busied herself with the doorstop. The rest of the sisters could flow in. Everyone else trickled in behind her. I noticed Margaret hanging back to whisper something to Catherine, who reacted to whatever Margaret had told her with an expression of bewilderment. She shook her head and shrugged. Margaret looked oddly panicked, but whatever Catherine meant with that gesture seemed to put her mildly at ease. Margaret looking panicked? I can't imagine what she looks like looking panicked. Not gonna lie. I was about to turn away when her eyes met with mine. I whirled away, hoping she did not feel as bad as if I had been spying on her. The gaggle of nuns that had entered the chapel was haphazardly morphing into an orderly line to greet the bishop, who was standing near the front of the room. Water time. Gotta make sure to stay hydrated. So much fear of the tiny organ, right? It didn't mention anything. The gaggle of nuns that had entered the chapel was haphazard. Oh wait, I guess I read that. Was haphazardly morphing into an orderly line to greet the bishop, who was standing near the front of the room. He had put on a hat in the intervening moments and looked much grander all of a sudden. Behind him, the Superior fiddled with the portative organ. People were bowing to the bishop, kissing his ring gently. I realized that I had failed to properly greet him in this manner when I first entered the room and quickly joined the line. How far gone was I to forget how to address my betters? Well, to be fair, you've never actually met him in person before, so you don't know what you're supposed to do in person. It had only been a few short weeks since I'd left my cell after all. I was standing behind Catherine in line. Darcy was speaking to the bishop ahead of us. She scarcely had to stoop to plant her lips on the ring, and she did so without saying anything. So that's Darcy is either short, or she's already stooping. She does kind of stoop all the time in her sprite, but I think it just means I think she's just short. Darcy being short is funny to think about. Catherine stepped up as Darcy glided away. Katerina, my darling, you look healthy. This place has done you good, hasn't it? Can't complain. The bishop chuckled and wagged a finger at her before extending his hand for her to kiss. She bent low and took his hand in hers as she planted her lips on the golden band. She stepped away, and I walked up to the bishop, hesitantly expecting to be admonished. Let's see. The service starts. Wait. As the women come shuffling in, Catherine sees Angela and Hedwig standing next to each other and looks uncomfortable. Margaret sees the bishop and panics a little. All the women get in line to greet the bishop. And Hedwig shuffles in, gets in line as well, as she realizes she didn't greet him properly. Yeah, there's an implied history with Cat. That's why I started writing. She ends up behind Catherine, who has a short exchange with the bishop that suggests they are familiar with each other. Can't say I've ever had this happen before. This is the first of both of us, Your Excellency. Indeed. He chuckled. I was not joking. He held out his hand. My lips felt dry in the cool air of the chapel, but even in my sorry state, I could not let myself wet them with my tongue in the front of this man. I bent down to kiss the ring. As soon as my mouth touched the metal, I realized I had no idea what to do. I bounced off awkwardly. I stood back up to face the bishop, hoping that it had not been as unpleasant an experience for him as it had been for me. He simply smiled and waved me off. She is so self-conscious. Margaret, how have you been faring? It is complicated, Your Excellency. I moved out of earshot and took a seat next to Moira. She'd eagerly scooted aside to accommodate me as soon as she saw me leave the line to greet the bishop. Everyone was seated eventually, all save for the superior and the bishop. The bishop stood off to the side of the altar as the superior adjusted her instrument. She cleared her throat and addressed the chapel. Hello, everyone. I don't mean to keep you all waiting, but I am experiencing some problems with the organ. She pressed... Alright, I guess... Oh, so that's why Margaret was panicking. Oh. Whoops. They messed with the portative again. But they didn't know that the bishop was gonna be here. So silly. She pressed a few keys. The portative wheezed and sputtered, but did not produce whatever sound the superior was hoping for. The portative is broken again. Perhaps this is why Margaret was so panicked earlier. They disabled it without realizing the bishop was around. Well, she began to play a tune. The instrument... Please don't make me laugh about this. The instrument was not up to the task. That's such a sad sound. One more try. Perhaps if I could feel Moira shrinking in her seat next to me. Oh no. There we are. La. There was an echoing clunk as something inside the contraption shifted. Miraculously, the organ sputtered to life. A hushed voice from behind startled me. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. This isn't ecstasy. This is... Oh no. It could have been much worse, believe me. You're so off key, man. Please. She manages to recover. This is what we're taking notes to. to fix it, however, and then she begins to perform. Distressing.
She's trying her best. I do not wish to be unkind, so I will simply say that I'm grateful that the Superior shared her passion with us with such enthusiasm. When the performance finally ended, there was a smattering of applause. The Superior... I don't know, I find this funny. The Superior gave her audience an odd little curtsy in response. She's curtsy. The bishop was asleep. He fell asleep to her performance. The bishop awakened with a jolt and hastily started clapping along with us. Why is this game so funny? We're all so awkward. It's stupid. I looked over at Moira, who's smiling sheepishly. She stood up as the clapping died down. I tucked my knees in to let her pass. She walked up to the altar to speak to the Superior, clearly offering some congratulations directly. The voice from behind muttered in my ear again. We'll get you together to throw a real celebration in the cellars later tonight. The bishop, who had somehow fallen asleep, wakes up. The Superior finishes, and everyone claps politely. Margaret informs Hedwig that there will be a real party in the cellars that night. Another voice whispered in my other ear. Much later tonight. Midnight, in fact. I shuddered. At midnight. Catherine was the last person I wanted to spend time with after midnight, but I wasn't sure refusal was an option from the tone of their voices. What sort of celebration? Your feast day, of course. But also a proper wake for St. Catherine II, sending off the old chronicler, and welcoming the new one, properly. With a gulp, I nodded slowly. It's a lot of celebrating for one day, but that's the spirit. You'll manage. You will come, correct? Yes. I heard the two of them stand up. Celebration for Hedwig's birthday, for real, and also a proper wake for Catherine. Margaret and Catherine are insistent that Hedwig attend. I heard the two of them stand up. Catherine patted me on the shoulder and squeezed hard. Her nails dug into my skin through my robe just for an instant. I'm looking forward to it. I was not enjoying this new relationship that had evolved between Catherine and myself. In retrospect, I wonder if our shared secret was driving her to attempt to be earnestly friendly with me on her own unique way. But I think it's equally as likely that she was taking some kind of sick pleasure in taunting me, even though that I knew her liaison, were I the kind of woman to spread rumors, surely had her in check. As I left the chapel, I noticed Angela standing outside waiting for me. My heart sank. Might have opted for another hour of portrait of organ recital over this meeting. The Superior says we should have this discussion ourselves. The rest of the sisters passed us by. Angela is waiting Hedwig outside. Once they were out of earshot, Angela continued. She is busy and trusts me to get what I need out of you. The Superior will not be joining their meeting. Instead, Angela will
obtain all the information necessary from Hedwig. That's not gonna be great.
It might be suspicious if all three of us started taking meetings with her in her office.
Yes. If I had not just explained the exact reasoning to you already, that would be a reasonable guess. Shall we walk?
Lead the way.
She turned around and set off down the path to the garden. Tell me what you know.
There really isn't much to tell yet.
You've had almost 3 weeks. What have you been doing?
Well, I've just had to adjust to a new life. I've been doing my utmost to not raise suspicions.
I must confess, I do not understand why it has taken you so long to adjust, as you put it. The way the Superior told me, you positively jumped at the chance to leave your cell.
That is not true.
She turned to me incredulous. Really now?
I was practically forced out. I would have much rather stayed. I wouldn't willingly break such a sacred vow. One I'd held for almost 20 years. It's true that I was moved by the Superior's cause. But if there was a way I could have helped without leaving my cell, I would have chosen it.
I imagined an alternate path, one where I maintained my life as Anchoress, while the Superior brought me my information to judge impartially. I became very angry with myself. If I had fought for myself, perhaps I could have solved this ghastly crime and not thrown my life's work... had my life's work thrown away. Interesting.
Do you believe me?
I can certainly see the Superior glossing over some details in her zeal. Oh no. Are they gonna try to make us like Angela? Let's see. The Superior accidentally, convinced Angela that Hedwig wanted to leave, to stop being Anchoress. Hedwig, profusely? Profusely seems like the wrong word. Denies this.
She'd already unlocked the door by the time I had a chance to protest.
Does sound like her. Impulsive, bull-headed. No wonder she has such a fascination with Catherine's death.
Do you not share that interest? Catherine earned some scorn somehow.
Catherine earned plenty scorn. That's not what I meant. I just mean that despite all the differences, she and Catherine shared a similar distaste for simple answers.
It felt very strange talking to Angela this candidly.
I would not describe her as being any more friendly than usual. In fact, her attitude was putting my teeth on edge. But at the very least, there was more of a conversation than I was used to having with her.
So you still think that James did it, correct? Even after the Superior explained everything?
Yes, I do.
Oh.
That being said, perhaps there's something you could tell me that would change my mind. Hence why I asked you to tell me everything you knew several minutes ago, I think.
I wouldn't know where to begin.
I'm not sure what I've seen or heard that would count as any sort of clue or hint. Why not start by telling me the strangest things you've seen first? And I'll decide what is pertinent and what is typical Lynborough oddness.
In that case, the most out-of-place thing I've seen is...
I realize how ridiculous I might sound, but it was the thing weighing on my mind the heaviest. Go on.
Well, I saw a ghost.
Or perhaps even a demon. At any rate, an apparition of some sort. Can't imagine why the Superior has summoned my help in this matter. I'd heard that your ghost situation was an elaborate prank, no? One of Eustace's little dress-up games. This was the before she left her, cell, though.
That's what everyone thinks, but...
You did not see a ghost. Let us move on. Tell me something else.
I really did, though. Eustace can't account for one of the visitations I remember.
Please take this seriously, Hedwig. I do not have time for folk tales, and I definitely do not want to waste my time on this already spurious investigation being played for a fool. If this is an extension of some practical joke, please drop it. Tell me something else.
I promise you this is no joke.
Angela tells Hedwig, I guess, needs Hedwig to explain everything she thinks that she saw that was odd. Hedwig tries to talk about the ghost she saw before she left her cell. But Angela does not like this topic. Is not interested in this topic. I saw the same figure a few other times outside my cell window on the second floor of the cloister. In fact, when I bumped into you on that first day I joined the congregation, I was running up to try and see who it was. Angela let out a deep, almost rattling sigh. It was Eustace. She did the same infantile act in the Misericorde later, no? Yes, but she swears that the time outside my window wasn't her. So she's lying. And she swears the ghost in the hallway was her, but I saw her not minutes later. In her nightclothes, no less. In fact, the only person I didn't see on the landing after that incident was you. She shot me a look so piercing, I physically recoiled. I was blissfully already fast asleep while all of that nonsense was happening. My shrieking didn't wake you up. No, it did not. And if you're really insinuating that I'm your prime suspect, this would be quite a precarious situation for you, wouldn't it? She glared at me meaningfully as my head whipped around in a panic, realizing how utterly alone we were in the garden. I looked back at her in dismay and nearly screamed when I saw that she had produced in her hands what I'd been looking away. Hello. Let's take a... Oops. Wrong button. Let's screen cap this for a bit. But also, she's probably going to light up in a little moment, so we're also going to screen cap that if it does. Hedwig notes that Angela was the only one not present for the ghost sighting the night that Eustace claimed. And Angela pulls out a knife. If I were a murderer who felt you were on my trail, I could have punctured your neck silently whenever I liked. As soon as we passed through the hedgerows. I guess she's not lighting up. This is the lightest it's gonna get. She held the knife out, and pressed the flat side of the blade under my chin, tilting my head upward to forcibly meet her gaze. Oh, you're gonna turn her into a bottom, girl. We stayed locked like that for just a moment, before she finally retracted her hand. I carry this for self-defense. Some joke! Thought it was rather amusing. It's a joke! It was only a joke. The knife is for self-defense. She twirled the dagger in her hands idly. Where'd she get it? Had it for years. Keepsake from my old convent. I thought I had lost it ages ago, but I'm glad to have found it again recently. It helps me feel safer in troubled times such as these. But James is locked up in the hospitalum. Your point? Well, if you're still feeling unsafe, I don't think that would help against a bear. Perhaps deep down you know it could have been someone else. I thought James is the only pervert who lurks around Lynnborough Tor. I see. Is that why you agreed to help the Superior, then? You think there's someone else out there? Possibly. Eyes narrowed. My tone was incredulous, at least as incredulous as I could sound while I was nervous as I was, and she could see it. She let out a short, sharp sigh, then took a step closer towards me. I'd always been wary of Angela, but I assumed she was personally unpleasant, shall we say, at the very worst. The outright malice she radiated, twirling a dagger between her fingers, is repellent to me. What will you do when we find out who really killed Catherine? Let me be perfectly clear. I firmly believe I've already found the man who really killed Catherine. I've stated it many times, and I will continue to state it. but I'm open to investigating the matter closer, if only to prove that I am correct. I found him skulking around not far from the cloister after Sister Charity found the body.
On her morning walk, yes. The Superior did tell me that much.
Morning walk. Charity does not take morning walks, at least no further than the cloister.
What on earth do you mean?
Uh-oh! She got it from her previous convent, but had lost it until recently, somehow. Topic of Charity finding the body comes up. The Superior? Yeah. The Superior, said it had been found during Charity's morning walk. Angela, however, claims that Charity does not take morning walks.
What on earth do you mean? Of course she does.
Angela let out another sigh, not as short and sharp this time, but filled with a sort of sympathetic condescension. She put her arms around her back and began to walk again, leading me through the hedges. I really must press you for every last little detail now. More than anything, I can help you find inconsistencies and lies. Do not take this the wrong way, but you are rather credulous. Yeah, okay. It wasn't Charity saying it, it was the Superior saying it. I do not mean to be insulting. It is to be expected of someone who spent 20 years locked up in a little room. My quarrel is with the Superior, not you. If this is how Angela treated people she had no quarrel with, I dreaded to imagine how she argued with people she did. I began to wonder if the Superior had ever seen Angela's knife come out. Charity does not take morning walks. She is too old and too fat for that sort of thing. The furthest she walks in the morning is from the dorm to the chairs she and Marta share. I would consider that a morning walk. It's a walk in the morning, I suppose, but I do not think that is the image meant to be conjured by that phrasing. The furthest she walks is to the chairs where she and Marta sit near the cloister. Charity would very much like the Superior, or whoever she tells her story to believe she exercises rigorously. That has absolutely nothing to do with Catherine's murder. No, it doesn't. But I think it makes for a good object lesson. People lie constantly. It's practically a reflex for most of the women here. Has Catherine recounted her story to you? The lesson according to Angela. All the women here lie reflexively. Angela asks what Hedwig heard from Catherine about her own story. Catherine. I very quickly tried to remember exactly what I could say to Angie in response to that angering Catherine. I was making too many enemies. She told me that she was forced out of Limbarrow Village because of politics, or some such. Not a lie, but certainly an obfuscation. Catherine was accused of murdering her husband. I did my best to feign surprise. My goodness! Did she really do it? In truth, I don't believe so, but she doesn't like to talk about it either way. Hedwig says that she was run from town over a matter of politics. Angela says that it was because she was accused of murdering her husband. Although Angela doesn't really believe the rumors. I imagine it must be very hurtful to discuss, especially if it was a false accusation. Yes, Yes, which is why I relented, finally, after arguing with the Superior for long enough. As sure as I am that James is the culprit, I must admit the prospect of being wrong haunts me. I spoke to James. He's in a lot of pain. Similar pain, I think. We completed a loop of the garden. Angela doubled back, and I followed. Neither of us spoke as we made our way back to the flower bushes. Oops. Let's see. Angela appeared in deep thought, and I was hopeful that I could find an excuse to take my leave as soon as possible. However, she finally stopped and began to recount the facts she had organized in her head as we walked. I was stuck listening. Angela recounts the events of the murder as she is aware of them. Charity found Catherine in the cloister, beheaded next to the murder weapon. Charity found Catherine in the cloister, beheaded next to the murder weapon. There's really no way to say that other than what she just said. She alerted the Superior, whose office I was in at the time, as we had spent the whole night arguing about various issues around the Abbey. She alerted the Superior, where Angela had been arguing with her all night. When I left the office, I ran into Eustace coming up from the cellars and told her to rouse the rest of the sisters and search the west side. Interesting. Ran into Eustace coming up from the cellars, who she told to rouse the others and search the west side. I myself immediately began a search of the grounds east of the cloister, while the Superior comforted Charity. Comforted Charity. I found James skulking away from the Abbey, and Darcy discovered his bloodied cloak not far from his cart. Angela found James and Darcy skulking away, and Darcy found his cloak in the cart. That is the story, as meticulously detailed as I can tell it. Now, have you heard or seen anything that contradicts those events or casts new light upon them? I had to take a minute to rack my mind. I began to realize how little real investigating I had done. I suppose the mysterious figure doesn't count. It does not. James claims he was not wearing his cloak when he delivered the mail that morning. That's surely something. And you said Darcy found his cloak on the west side of the Abbey, yes? I see what you're getting at. James was found on the east side, but his cloak was on the other end of the Abbey by the front entrance. Yes. Surely this proves he was telling the truth. I remember it being particularly windy that day, as it often is here on the mountain. It is possible his cloak simply came loose as he attempted to make his escape. I suppose that is possible. However, it is also possible that it did not. Therefore, we, must find a way to reconcile this discrepancy one way or the other. Did James tell you anything that might help? He said that Catherine would be able to vouch for him. Angela looked at me with an oddly quizzical expression, and I quickly added some detail. Because he saw her in the library when he was delivering his letter. I see. Catherine has confirmed this. Yes, but that wasn't enough for the Superior when I told her. Why not? Because, well, I actually saw Catherine and James speaking to each other. Quite recently, in fact. Nonsense. It is true, I followed her out into the hills one night. I did not know it was her at first. She asks Hedwig if there's anything she could say that would change this story. Hedwig says that James Foreman says he had not been wearing his cloak, and that Catherine could vouch for him. She uses the same lie to say, she uses the James's lie to say that Catherine had seen him in the library, but also says the Superior does not believe this because Catherine had been speaking with James recently. Hedwig relays to Angela the events of that night. We crossed paths when she returned. Unfortunately, I didn't overhear what they spoke about. You followed Catherine all the way out to the hospitalum. Yes. All by yourself. Yes. Angela's eyebrows were liable to disappear underneath her white cap. And here I was thinking you always refused to take the initiative. The Superior neglected to inform me of that particular wrinkle. I'm starting to think I may have accidentally made Catherine the Superior's top suspect. I must admit, it might make her mine. If I entertain the idea that it was not James, at least. You think her story is tainted because of it? It's hard to imagine a scenario where the two can be taken at the word alone. Which I'm afraid puts us in stalemate. Hedwig understands the reference now. She's learned chess now. Alright. The Superior sent me down to the village to see what the general opinion about Catherine's old murder case was. She wanted me to judge how believable the idea of Catherine killing someone was. What nonsense. It did feel a bit aimless. I'm not particularly used to the public. I mean, that's not why she sent you down to the village. She sent you all the way down there so the rest of the sisters could work on your feast. That's a waste of time and a rather tasteless way to treat a very serious matter, I agree. I guessed that the others had certainly made use of my absence to prepare a surprise, but that the idea that the entire trip had been a frivolous exercise had me seething. All that anguish for nothing. You could have just kept me in the library for one day. Indeed. Well, the bishop is here now, and his arrival used to be your deadline. In here. Angela stroked his chin with a bony finger and gazed at the rapidly darkening sky. It's not already dark? Let us make a pact, you and I. Oh, a pact? Angela says that the trip into town was entirely for Hedwig's surprise feast and not at all meant to be related to the case. What else? She suggests that the two of them make a pact. Impressed with Hedwig's initiative, but it also agrees the Superior that it makes Catherine top suspect. A lot of colons we have today. Get what the Superior says. She means well, but she's not equipped to handle the situation. I don't understand. The Superior is desperate to save face in front of the bishop. Their relationship is strained, that much I know. She believes that if she can present him with a satisfactory, no, not just satisfactory, salacious explanation of this tragedy, he will overlook years of shoddy leadership. She is looking for accolades, for a promotion. So what do we do differently? Nothing. Only, when we have our answer, whether it is assurance that James was the killer or we discover the unthinkable and accuse one of our own, we report to the bishop ourselves. They should report directly to the bishop themselves instead of going through the Superior, who Angela believes is looking to get promoted. What would she get promoted to, actually? Yeah. She's looking, I guess, to save face in front of the bishop. And possibly get promoted. What's higher than superior for a nun? Why? To get proper credit for our work, of course. Nobler as her intentions may seem, I detect an undercurrent of self-satisfaction. I shook my head. Angela had spat a lot of venom this evening, but this is way too much. I don't believe that the superior is that selfish. For the first time ever, I heard Angela laugh. It was a deeply unpleasant, mirthless squawk. You just told me she pulled you out of your cell against your will. You're being used. You and I are both being used. I had no answer for this. The last bit of daylight was fading. Wind rustled the flower bushes, and for a moment I felt like I could hear the sea. Nothing else about our work changes. We can work separately, even. I know you might prefer that. I certainly would. And we will meet the superior at her request. But when it is time to give the bishop an answer, we give it to him. At least she's willing to share the credit. Angela held her hand out to me. Thought about my cell. I thought about my cell and the peace those walls provided. I thought about the sheer terror I had felt when I had heard the rattle of the superior's keys, and the ugly sobs I had stifled with my pillow that night. I thought about the childish rage that I had felt as I had thrown out that spoiled copy of Matthew from my window, and the sheer terror I had felt when I saw whoever it was outside watching me. I thought about Catherine speaking to me through the squint, and how I would never, ever have a conversation like that with another soul. I grasped my hand around Angela's wrist, and she wrapped her fingers around mine. I could feel the hard leather strap of a sheath as we shook hands, and I immediately regretted my decision. Uh-oh! Against, Hedwig? Satz regrets it immediately. Alright, what's the new chapter gonna be? Very well, her eyes narrowed, and she looked up at the shadowy abbey wall that loomed above the garden. What is it? Nothing. Just a bird. What now? Business as usual. Someone will have seen this happen, I think. But who? In the morning, I think I will talk to James myself. Perhaps I can get something out of him you could not. Tonight, unfortunately, I have some work to go over with the superior. And I imagine we will be forced to entertain the bishop until he retires. He's not staying in the hospitalum, is he? It would be rather awkward, I imagine. I hadn't considered. Perhaps the superior will provide a bedroll and send him to the Misericorde. Anyway, what will you do next? The others are throwing a sort of continuation of the feast tonight in the cellars. I was told it was meant to be a sort of wake for Catherine. Angela's lips pursed ever so slightly. I had no idea that this proposed gathering was such an offensive idea to her. It sounded like a good opportunity to speak to people candidly. Perhaps I will find a new clue. Indeed. Well, goodbye. And with that, she left. Her shoulder bumped into mine as she passed me, and her stride looked a little less confident than usual as I watched her turn a corner at the end of the hedgerow. Hedgerow Airport? I sighed. The sun was still setting. I had a good while yet before I needed to appear at the controversial party. Alright. A controversial party. Angela says that she might have, she will want to have a talk with James herself. To try to glean some information. Hedwig mentions that she will be attending a party which is a continuation, which she explains is meant to be a continuation of the previous party, previous feast, as well has a wake for Catherine. In the cellars. I wondered the way back we'd come, past the chapel. The more I wandered through the abbey, the stranger I found the pile of debris lumped unceremoniously next to the building. The chapel itself appeared sturdy enough, so I was at a loss for what all this loose stone was for. The clock tower, maybe? I gasped as I realized there was something moving atop the rubble, black fabric draped over the broken rocks. Hedwig goes back the way they came. She stumbles over the rubble near the chapel, wondering what it was, and spies black cloth shuffling about on it. I froze in place. Was this useless breaking a promise to me yet again? Or was I the first person in history to catch a ghost off guard? I squinted through the dusk, trying to decide whether or not to bolt. It turned around to face me and I tensed. Only... Hello, Hedwig. Oh, it's you! It's Margaret. You had me quite afraid up there. I already said we need to stop meeting like this, didn't I? We really do need to. That's no trouble. I'm just naturally jumpy, it turns out. I suppose that wouldn't be a problem in itself. There's only one way people can come at you in there. Indeed. What are you doing on a pile of rocks? I'll just taking in the sunset. Mr. Margaret. Even I won't buy that one. It was worth trying. Well, I needed to get into the chapel. There used to be a way through here, but when the clock tower collapsed, it blocked the passage. She was trying to get to the chapel. There was a way through. A passage before. But when the clock tower collapsed, it was blocked. Have you tried the front door? Soup locked it for whatever reason. And the back door as well, clever clogs. Oh, well, that's a shame. I suppose you could just pray out here instead. Well, anyway, I don't need to pray. I need to... Well... Is she trying to disable the portative again? She ceased peering at the wall of the chapel, where I presume the rubble had filled in whatever entrance she was hoping to find. Can you keep a secret? It's not anything bad, is it? No? Not really. Only a little at worst. Oh, so, can you? I sighed. What was one more on the pile? Yes, of course. Well, as I'm sure you noticed, Disappear's organ sounded a little off tonight. Did you get it? She shot me a withering look. Anyway, that might have been my fault. A little bit. It was a little bit of Catherine's fault as well, but she's busy. I need to get in there and fix the problem. Margaret is trying to get inside to fix the problem with the portative. Is the problem that it's working? What do you mean it's your fault? Sister Margaret! She and Catherine had done something to it. I remember the first conversation Margaret and I ever had with Catherine. I thought that was a joke. A cruel joke, but idle chatter nonetheless. It should say that, right? But I fear we might have taken things a touch too far. She looked a bit upset tonight, didn't she? As well she should. No argument for me. Anyway, that's why I'm up here. Trying to find a way in. Why not just come clean? What's the fun in that? Besides, I would rather not be stuck on privy cleaning duty for the rest of the year. Well then,
Why not do it tomorrow after before service? Or after? That might have to be the plan, I'm afraid. But there's a good chance she'll try and play it again, and I doubt she'll maintain her composure another time. I thought hard about a way to help. I do not approve of Margaret's mischief, but I was at the very least pleased to see some empathy and effort to correct her mistake. What about the bells? Don't follow. Someone's going to ring the bells before liturgy tomorrow, surely. Whoever did it would have to unlock the door. Couldn't get in that way. Margaret hopped down from the pile of rocks and grabbed me by the shoulders. Hedwig, you're a genius. Someone is going to ring the bell tomorrow morning. It's going to be me. There you go. Hedwig suggests using the bells as an excuse, as someone needs to go inside to ring. Let's see. All the other doors are locked. Someone needs to go outside to ring the bells, and that will require unlocking the doors. Margaret, congratulates Hedwig on the bright idea. Oh, well, there you go. I mean, I can make that happen. I'm sure whoever got assigned bell duty this week will jump at the chance to sleep in after tonight's little party. I'll just go tell the soup that I volunteered right now. She patted my arm and began to jog away. See you in the cellars. Wait. Huh? What is a clock tower? Oh. Right. Well, a clock is a bit like a... Oh. Hedwig doesn't know what a clock tower is. Somehow. I guess they weren't in the Bible, so she wouldn't know. Imagine if you didn't have to ring the bells at morning, noon, and dinner yourself. It's a big machine that does all that for you. Like the animal statues by King Solomon's throne! I had no idea we had such wonders here. Margaret looked oddly stern. Yes, I suppose it is a bit like that. It seems a bit extravagant. Soup was very excited about the project, but between you and me, there are a few of us who thought it was a waste of money. But she had secured a good deal on the work and wanted it built quickly. Normally these things are reserved for big cathedrals in cities. Ah, you look at it now and... well, it looks like we got what we paid for in the end. I heard the Superior thought it was a bad idea. I'm sure she says that now. So... Margaret explains the concept. She says that the Superior was excited to have one, so the bells would ring automatically. Hedwig says the Superior was against it, and Margaret returns that that's just what she says now. Why hasn't anyone moved all these stones? Have you tried lifting one? Fair point. I'm surprised you'd never come across a clock before. They're expensive, but they're not exactly new. Isn't there one in Commedia? Oh my god, she hasn't read the Divine Comedy? Wait, are they talking about the Divine Comedy? What? Commedia? Oh. Yeah, okay, they're talking about the Divine Comedy. You haven't read Dante? Now that surprises me. Now it's my turn to be uncharacteristically stern. Margaret wonders how she never came across clock towers at all. They're in the Divine Comedy after all. Hedwig hasn't read it. I've not read anything that isn't biblical canon, errata, or scholarly commentary. Listen, I really must run and catch the soup. But we'll try and catch up about this at the party, yeah? I think you'll probably like it. I'll look forward to it. Margaret grinned, and then jogged off toward the superior's office. I sighed and continued at my own pace down the path toward the cloister. Oops. Where I could see the torches being lit. I headed up the stairs to the dormitory. Margaret says they'll chat about it later at the party. I reasoned that if I really was going to burn the midnight oil with everyone in the cellars later, I might as well get some rest. However, the dorms were livelier than I'd ever seen them. Everyone's doors were wide open, and I could see several sisters milling about. One was on her knees scrubbing. I froze in the doorway. The ink. Oh my god, this stuff is resilient. You should take up stone carving, Moira. It's just as permanent and a lot less messy. It wasn't my fault. It was like this when I got here. Hello, Hedwig. Oh, hi, Mark. I did not do it. I did not do it. I did not. Oh, hi, Hedwig. Hedwig comes across Eustace and Moira attempting to clean up the ink spill. I stepped forward, nervously, ready to be chastised. I could probably make something up, that would help. Darcy, Eustace, and Moira. And Kat, they're all there. Everyone's here. Everyone is here. The last stain remover I remember you mixing up for me burned a hole straight through my robes. I appreciate the offer, Darcy, but I think I've got as much of it up as I'm going to. Sorry, Moira. I'm sorry, Moira. Huh? Whatever for. I must have knocked it over when I was getting fresh clothes from your dorm. I really was a nasty little rat. Miraculously, Moira chuckled. There's no need to blame yourself. I think you would have noticed knocking a whole ink bottle over, silly. I almost objected, but then the small crowd around Eustace parted enough for me to see who the culprit everyone had agreed upon was. The cat saved her. Hedwig attempts to come clean. But there's another... There was dirt on someone else. But someone else was already caught red-handed. Or should I say... Black Pod. We really need locks if Catherine's gonna have a cat running around. It's not my cat. Why does everyone think it's my cat? Eustace ignored her. This was a disaster just waiting to happen. I keep all my bottles under the bed so nothing gets knocked over. Eustace stood up, groaning a little as she bent her knees. I'd keep your shoes on out here for a while. Think I got all the broken glass, but you never know. Thanks so much for the help, Eustace. I did my best inside my room, but the paw prints... Eustace nodded, and put the brush she'd been using to scour the floor back into a wooden bucket at her side. The paw prints were not gone, but they were at least faded. Hedwig! You should tell Darcy about your vision. What? What? That! Oh, do tell. Perhaps it's best if you took Hedwig into your dorm to chat about it a little more privately. Oh, right. I'm sorry, Hedwig. No, it's quite alright. Really, I had no reason to be upset. I'd made no demands for secrecy, and under normal circumstances I'm sure I'd be thrilled. Perhaps even a little proud, were I to be brutally honest with myself. To have let it be known that I'd seen a vision. But this day had been such a violent emotional journey that I couldn't help but feel annoyed. Darcy, on the other hand, looked positively elated. Yes, come with me. Oh, Darcy. You weirdo.
Moira, remembers that, Hedwig ought to tell Darcy about her vision. Hedwig is a little annoyed that it was brought up, even though she never mentioned, keeping it on the down low. She beckoned me inside her room, as the rest of the group dispersed. She shut the door behind her and gestured for me to sit on the bed. It was hard to find a spot that wasn't covered in books, bags, tools, and containers. This is exciting. Have you ever had a vision before? Never in my life. What happened? It's rather unpleasant to tell you the truth. Well, they often are. I'd seen a lot of gruesome things in mine, according to Eustace anyway. What sort of gruesome things? Heads chopped off, stuff on fire, men with too many eyes. List goes on. Aww. Mentions that her, Hedwig says her vision was unpleasant. Darcy says they often are. Things she's seen include heads chopped off, fire, and men with too many eyes. How frightening! I think it's worth it for the ones that are less scary. And really, the scary ones are important too, I think. They're a rich tapestry. I think that's a very good way to look at it. So what did you see? No holding back. Start with before the vision, actually. What were you feeling? She produced a quill and paper from her little reading desk. Well, I was rather upset. I had a horrible time in the village, truth be told. Sorry to hear it. And I sat down in the town square. I told her everything in much more detail than I'd given Eustace and Moira on the ride back up to the Abbey. It was easy to be forthcoming around Darcy compared to almost everyone else here. Wow. Exciting. It isn't now. Exciting in lowercase. Oh, incredibly. What could it mean? No idea. Oh. Something wrong? Oh, no, I just was hoping you might be able to help sort it all out. I'd be happy to help, but I can't give you the answer. I don't understand it. I wouldn't even know where to begin understanding it. Well, it is probably about God. I suppose that much I'd gathered, I think. Hedwig talks about, explains her entire vision in the parts before it in more detail. In detail. Darcy says she's disappointed to hear that Darcy can't really tell her what it means, however. So you did know where to begin after all. What do these things say to you? I don't know. You must know. Otherwise you would not have seen them. What if it's an omen? I wouldn't know then. If God is trying to tell me something, surely it would be something I needed to know and didn't. Darcy shook her head. It was odd seeing her look so authoritative, even in the garden. She never commanded this sort of presence. God would never show you something anything you did not have the capacity to understand. God may not speak in words, but he understands language. How else would he communicate with us now, and the Israelites then? The Jews and the Romans. How would he reach the heathens in the east? Or the bloody French? God showed Hildegard a shape of light and let her conclude it was a map of the cosmos. He even sent Moses a burning bush before he spoke plainly. And he sent me a vomiting dog. You have been puking a lot, Hedwig. Eating the same thing over and over and spitting it out again. Perhaps he has yet to speak plainly to you. Or perhaps he already has. Darcy says that she does not believe God gives a vision without the receiver understanding it. Edwig doesn't understand why God would show her a vomiting dog. I wasn't sure whether to be amused or frustrated. Do you understand any of the visions you've seen? Not entirely. If only Catherine were here. She understood hers very quickly. With my help, of course. She gives the utmost confidence that I can help you. Which gives the utmost confidence that I can help you. We can translate what God is saying to you. I would appreciate that. I am yours. However, I must think on it. Of course. There really is no great rush. This expression. Shut eyes. What are you picturing, Darcy? Is she stooped over, or is that her cloak? They do have a cloak, so... But it also kind of looks like this is her hip line. And she does look like she's kind of stooped over a little bit. She scrunched up the face and started stroking her chin, and I realized she meant to start thinking right away. I stood up and bowed my head. My thanks, Darcy. She nodded gently. I left to retire to my own room. The crowd that had surrounded the Inks village had dispersed. Crowds love dispersing in this game. Only Moira remained leaning against her door, looking more exhausted than I'd ever seen her. Any luck? We're going to keep at it. Good, good. She looked pensive and preoccupied. I'm sorry. It's no great loss. I can always ask the Superior to send away for more. I just worried the damned cat is going to cause more trouble elsewhere. I'm sure we have some spare ink in the library. Oh, I might take you up on that. Although you might have to ask Eustace, I know she can be a bit particular about supplies and so on. Can't her task. No, it can't, can it? You're right. Sorry to be so much of a donor. She fixed her gaze on the faint paw print on the floor again. Eustace had clearly done her best to scar the stone, but there was still a visible trail leading out of the dorms to the landing. Is it really so much of a nuisance? It sounds silly, but I don't trust it. I'm old-fashioned, I suppose. She sighed heavily. It was very cute once upon a time, but once it grew up, I had no idea it'd been a problem for that long. We don't get the usual vermin up here in the hills. It's far too cold. Whoever brought it here just wanted to pet, I think. Another one of this Abbey's great mistress. What are some of the others? I caught myself too late to keep this rather stupid inquiry to myself. Alright. They decide to work at it a bit more. Moira says that the cat used to be cute when it was little, but now it's being more of a nuisance. She says she doesn't know who brought it up, but it was because they wanted a pet rather than to keep the non-existent rodents pass away. I'm convinced my habit of answering every statement with a question will be the death of me. Luckily, Moira didn't find this question odd. Where to start? Who paid for it? Who still pays for it? Is it haunted? Yes. Darcy had emerged from her room without either of us noticing. Do you really think so, Darcy? I know so. I've thought a lot about it recently, and I finally know for certain. This place is very haunted. I hope not. Darcy shuffled past us, leaving Moira looking a little worried. I wanted to say something comforting to Moira, but the evil sigil carved into the walls loomed in the back of my mind. It was becoming harder to disagree with Darcy's assessment. When is that sigil gonna come up? Catherine probably wrote it there or something. She'd probably be the kind of person who did that. I was curious what had prompted her escalation from a little to very haunted and thought about following her to ask, but Moira kept talking. That night on the landing, when you said you saw a ghost. I know useless claim credit, but the more I hear from the others, the more I see myself. I sometimes wonder if it's any comfort. I don't know what to believe about it either. What was it like? Terrifying. And then when everyone assumed it was a practical joke, I felt very small. Hour two? I must apologize for throwing in my lot with them. It's no trouble. I can scarcely believe it myself. Darcy's sure now that the Abbey is haunted. Hedwig, although doesn't know why Darcy's assessment is upgraded. Moira isn't sure if she believes that Eustace was really pranking Hedwig with the first night. I guess it wasn't really the first night. That night outside the Misericorde. It goes against everything I know, everything I hold true. How could I judge anyone for dismissing my account? You're too forgiven. You did not see it. You have nothing to apologize for. That's not true, actually. What do you mean? Remember in the village? When I whispered to Eustace. I was telling her that we had to stall so we wouldn't get back to the Abbey too early. Since everyone was getting ready for the feast, which was meant to be a surprise. It was a lovely surprise. So how could I be upset? Moira smiled. Her eyes were a little damp. I felt horrid for keeping you there against your will. I felt horrid being there, but... I like how Darcy's just here. She's just listening to this. I think in the end, this day ended up being rather good. Really? That's a relief. She wiped her eyes with her sleeves, then stood up straight. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, though. We've got a wake to attend, remember? Right. I think I'm going to lie down for a while to recuperate. You should. It's been a long day, and it's going to be a long night. Of course. She smiled at me and stretched her arms above her head, letting out a huge yawn. I think I might do the same. I think I might do the same. Knock on my door if you get up before I do, won't you? Of course. We went to our separate rooms. Darcy's just still hanging out in the hallway. I think I fell asleep the moment my eyes shut. Okay. I think this is where we should stop for the night. Is that knocking or is that... We'll see. I don't know. Let's see here. Pre-gaming. Alright. So yeah, I think this is a good place to end it. The party is probably going to be a big thing. Ghost boots are stomping. And yeah, that is going to be it for me for tonight, I think. That's going to be the end of the stream. I don't really have much to say. What is it? I watched the Splatoon Raiders direct, and then I didn't pay attention to it. So I was just up at night anyway. Up in the morning anyway. I did watch it eventually. It seemed pretty cool. But I think it's the kind of game where I just need to get my hands on it rather than look at more stuff because they're not sharing any more useful information. What is it? I've been continuing the Yura Mina run in Mina the Hollower. I screwed up badly. Not last night, but the night before. One of the things that happens is that if you lose your bones, you you lose levels, right? And I've been avoiding that because I have a trinket that basically avoids that. But I decided to be stupid and I forgot about that, and forgot about that penalty because I hadn't had to deal with it in a while. So I went and did the little graveyard thing where you have to sacrifice some of your spark orbs, and then I died like 3 times or 4 times even before I remembered that I was losing levels every time that happened, and so I grinded my levels back up. It sucked. Oh yeah, also the actual important stuff. There won't be any streams next week. It's AGDQ. Sorry, SGDQ, Summer Games Done Quick. And so I'll be taking that opportunity to just be like, watch, chill, not stream for a little bit. We'll be back the week after. I think there will probably be stream on Saturday. Still, I'm not 100% sure on that yet. So there is that. But yeah, that's basically the big stuff, right? No stream next week. Starting next Tuesday. So I'm hoping we will finish this game soon. I bought the new Messages from Outer Space game. We'll probably be working on that. If we finish this game before the end of this week. I think we'll try to finish this game up this week. I don't know how much long is left though. So maybe we won't finish it and we'll just have like a week-long period where we don't think about this game for a while. And then we'll come back and try to remember everything. But yeah, that is gonna be it for me. Thank you all so much for hanging out. I really appreciate you being here. Let's go find somebody to raid over on Twitch. So for those of you on YouTube, hope you all have a very good night. And yeah, that is the end of stream for y'all. Hope to see you again on Thursday, where we will continue playing this game. Hopefully this wraps up soon. We're getting a lot of stuff happening, but it is pacing itself quite slowly. So hopefully we get some more information soon. Anyway, yeah, hope to see you around. And yeah, bye!